just a way to create energy for your team and to get these home fans involved early.
Well, I've seen a very auspicious fan on Sportsnet has Canes in 5. We'll see how that works. What's going on, everybody? John here with you. It's May 22nd, 2025. How's everybody doing out there today? This is the first look at the series for me of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. So first head coached by Maurice. Again, he was the former coach of the Carolina Hurricanes very long ago. Aleksander, Barkov, Evan Rodriguez, Sam Reinhart, Gustav, Forsling, Ekblad, Sam Bennett, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Niko, Mikkola, and Seth Jones. Anton, Lundell, Schmidt, Marchand, Tomas Nosek, AJ Greer, and Jonah Gadjevich, with Nate Schmidt, Dmitry Kulikov, Big Bob, Sergei Bobrovsky will be the goaltender record per usual. For the Canes, it sounds like this: Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Seth Jarvis, Jacob Slavin, and Brent Burns, again head coached by Brind'Amour. Jack Roslovic, Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, Dmitry Orlov, Sean Walker, Jordan Stahl, Jordan Martinook, William Carrier, Mark Jankowski, Eric Robinson, Jackson Blake. We'll see if Jankowski does indeed draw into the lineup. Shane Gostisbehere, Scott Morrow will be on the third line with Freddie Anderson in the goal crease, the former Maple Leaf. So really it comes down to this for me, and I know this sounds simple over the last couple of years when these two teams met up with each other. In 2023, it was 4 games, all decided by 1 goal. And I know that's a brutal way for the Carolina Hurricanes to lose because you lost in 4 overtimes to Matthew Tkachuk, double overtime to Matthew Tkachuk, overtime to Matthew Tkachuk, all 1-goal games. But Game 1 was a 5-2 Florida win. And despite the Panthers having 10 minutes or more in a period without a shot, Florida still won easily. Scott Morrow, as we mentioned, because no Jalen Chatfield, was a -3 as a new add-on for defense for Carolina, and he really got exposed. Again, his back check that was not there allows for E2 Lusterine and cross pass and finish. Cats had balanced scoring as they usually do. Carter, Verhaeghe, power play goal, Ekblad, Greer, Bennett, Lusterine, and all score. Anderson just 15-20 in the loss. Bobrovsky brilliant as he stopped 31 of 33. The Canes have now lost 13 straight Eastern Conference Finals games in a row. They lose today, it would be 14. They lose this series and get swept, it would be 16. And really, it's difficult to process that, obviously. But when you look at the grand scheme of everything, Carolina's been in the Final Four consistently. They are a great team. Brind'Amour is a good coach, and this team has an excellent system. But the issue for me is that the Florida Panthers play the exact same style better with more talent top end. I know Matthew Tkachuk has been injured and hasn't gotten in the goal-scoring department as he would have liked throughout this series. But again, he's played injured over the last 3 years. And if the Florida Panthers were not injured a couple of seasons ago against the Vegas Golden Knights when they won in 5 and got their first cup in recent franchise history, Florida probably would have already went 2 for 2 and attempt to go 3 for 3. So it's the same systems with better talent on one end, with the better goaltender and the better defense. So how does Carolina win? Simply put, I don't have the answer for you on that because we've seen this over the last few years. I think this is the Canes ceiling. I want to know if you agree or disagree with me on that prospect, but I really don't have anything enlightening to bring to it because I like Aho. Svechnikov scored a ton of goals, got 7 or 8 in the postseason so far. Seth Jarvis plays on the power play, penalty kill, even strength, everywhere you need him. Logan Stankoven was a really good pickup and alongside for Carolina. But again, to me, they got Mikko Rantanen for a reason. That did not work after 10 to 12 games on that side. He goes to Dallas, and everything is a nice, warm, fuzzy blanket. For Stankoven, again, 21, 22 years of age, still really getting into his career. Already had some preeminent games with the Dallas Stars. He's going to be a great player. But there was a reason why Carolina traded for the Moose to get that top-end talent, to get that goal scoring. Well, they had Jake Etzel, and Jake Etzel flat out said if they would have given me the number I wanted, I would have stayed. But the organization was trying to cheap out a little bit as they've done throughout goaltending throughout the years. When you think about guys like former Red Wings in the mix of it, you know, Peter Mrazek, you had that time of it as well. You had Cam Ward that's been there for a long time. Thankfully, he was drafted and stayed, but there was a lot of guys that were around here that just did not stay, like Alex Nedeljkovic. They didn't give him the money he wanted. Carolina trying to get that done on the cheap, trying to stay in the salary cap era. That's fine. Maybe slight overpays for Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov, but not able to keep the top-end offensive talent. Is that fair? That's some of the thoughts that I have in mind. Again, I haven't covered Carolina as much as I had over the previous 3 seasons, only because I feel like they have a good grasp on what they are. It's one of the top teams in the league, but really Florida's standing in the way, and maybe they're going to be a team more like the Lightning over the last 3. Again, the Lightning lost in their last year in 2022. And Cooper and I covered it against the Avalanche, but they won the previous 2. And Florida trying to do the same thing. If they make it 3 times and win twice, this time on the back end. So I wish good luck and good fortune to Alec Nava and his secondary team alongside the Carolina Hurricanes. But I am wondering, after covering this a couple times 2 years ago in this series and they all being 1-goal games, what is going to be different? Let's find out. Again, I got the Sportsnet feed. I'm assuming a solo call today. If not, we will change it. TNT is going to carry coverage the other way. Reinhart's pass alongside for Mikkola. As this will be put into the left side boards, canceled off by the Canes, who have the dark jerseys at home in the mix of the red striping. Panthers in the road whites, the blue pants in the red stripe. Evan Rodriguez is a Swiss Army knife as Sam Reinhart now battles with Jacob Slavin. Be sent back in now for Seth Jones as he rattles it around the embankment. Slowed down there by Martin Orlov, trying to send around. He gives it right back up to Tkachuk, who just flutters into the corner. Cats now try to work with puck possession now for Carter Verhaeghe, alongside with Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, 9-19, Verhaeghe there. That's a really good second line. A lot of depth here on the Panthers that can definitely score and all run the systems, working behind the boards and forecheck like bolts of lightning, like the other team. So, as this will be sent the other way. Another pickoff here, an immediate rip and a score. Gustav Forsling. What a play for the Cats. It was essentially 3-on-1. They get Orlov napping. Brutal turnover, and Florida scores immediately. I asked in my YouTube side of the question whether or not the Canes can avoid the sweep. I don't expect a lot of you to try to step in on that landmine and say yes or no, because it really is a precipitous question to ask, quite forward considering we're only 2 games into the series. But again, that's a goal off a turnover immediately, 7-2 when scoring first in the 2025 playoffs. That's brutal for Carolina, and they just can't escape this nightmare right now. Again, they're going to need to get something in the next probably 4 or 5 minutes if you want me to believe something different. Good finish of a check. As this one sent toward Freddie Anderson and blocked off the other way as we get some spam inside there, but at least it's something. Sending toward the left side, picked up now by the Canes across the logo. See what can happen now as this will be knocked away for Svechnikov. Slavin makes a slap shot here, stalled. But this will be deflected, stay in play toward the left side red line. Good touch there for Slavin. Try to find him for his defense in Orlov, and off the back skate was Karinen. We'll go ahead and send this in as he takes a bump from Svech. Brind'Amour squad is in the middle of a bad change. Here's Mikkola. Sent in behind the inboards, really hard off the backboards in Florida. Excellent work on their back check. We'll pick it up. Being an opportunity now for the Canes. Left side red line, flip this one in. As this will be Jackson Blake. He's one of those prospects and alongside for Carolina. In the mix of Washington, some of these other teams in the Metro have good systems. I'm not saying no matter what happens, again, you have to punch that button. Carolina is an excellent team, but Florida may be the biggest buzzsaw that we've seen over the last several years. They're going to be really good for the next couple as well, but you kind of wonder what the championship window for Florida is going to be, because 3 long playoff runs, my goodness. What a hit in the left side board. Shane Gostisbehere able to get a piece of Mikkola. Back in mind the inboards now. Carolina really throwing the body against the Cats as this one goes up and on a play. Excellent hit and work so far between the two, and that put the crowd to their feet. Walker Ended up taking a hit the other way as Fetch played it across the bumper. They're showing the pickoff here at Forsling. What a snipe toward the left side of Anderson. Mikkola the other way. How do you do? A little bit of a boom there and alongside for Walker. My goodness. As this is toward the left side red line. Here's a spin and turn. Martin able to intercept. Short side angle. Good close off for Bobrovsky. Touch with the stick handle. Another chance. Centered out in front of the scrum. Now Erod will get this one out for Florida. As this will be flipped back down. Freddie Anderson has some trouble with it in behind his net. Look out. As the Cats. Now we'll get this toward the left side blue line. Here's a slapper. Bounces off of Orlov. He's already had a tough game so far, giving up that first goal off the turnover. Tkachuk got an assist from Forsling's goal. 16:20 left to go in the first. Carolina 2 shots. Florida 1, but they scored on it. Sent back the other way now for Barkov. And the captaincy can't find it. He's out there with Tkachuk. Beautiful steal. What a pass out in front. And this one partially deflected there by Carolina. Dmitry Orlov able to get the emergency defense right in the middle of the slot. Svechnikov. Now we'll play this one in the corner. Sebastian Aho spin and turn, try to find a feed. Here's Slavin right in the breadbasket of Bobrovsky. He's got it. This is a crazy start so far. Sportsnet side is claiming that Carolina looks pretty fidgety and not comfortable. Again, that's the way that Florida forces you to play. And you think about it, Toronto had a 2-0 lead on home ice against the Cats, ended up losing in 7. They got humiliated in games 5 and 7, losing 6-1. But Toronto was able to give them a press. Imagine what happens if Toronto advances and plays Carolina. Maybe Carolina puts them to the buzzsaw. Maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs go to the Stanley Cup Finals and they hold on to their core 4. You never really know. Here's a rolling puck. Opportunity off the cross pass, and Mikkola not able to find it as it was loose to Reinhart off a very late cut. This is intercepted the other way. And alongside for Jordan Staal. Captaincy gets brushed from left side boards. Good pass outlet from left to right. That's what the Cats want to do. Kulikov. Put it in off the bumper now. AJ Greer gets pinned in against the glass. And this will be an opportunity now for Svechnikov off the turn. We'll see what he can do with it. This is backhanded right in toward the goal mouth very dangerously. The Cats now intercept it toward neutral ice. Tomas Nosek will go ahead and take a change alongside for Paul Maurice's squad. Again, Paul Maurice and Rod Brind'Amour know each other very well. We talked about that in the 2023 side when these two teams met in the Eastern Conference Final. This will be spun back around there for Eric Robinson. Drop it back to the defense for Jacob Slavin, one of the very best. Nate Schmidt with an overskate. Barkov, excellent stick chopping. This is very convenient and excellent puck movement here for Florida. Everybody's on a string right now, and they're able to get the puck from zone to zone very quickly, especially from defense to neutral. Bobrovsky hits this one off the glass. Carolina now trying to turn on the burners with the forecheck and behind. Lots of screens in front of Bobrovsky. Got to get a shot on net here. And this one's overskated at the moment. This is right in front of the goal mouth, and Martin can't find it. Expertly chipped off the glass by Florida. 13:40 left to go in this first. Big contact right in the middle of center ice. It looked like there was a definite trip. Bobrovsky will play this in behind. We'll press on in behind Florida's end. And Gustav Forsling, who's already opened the scoring, gets an abbreviated timeout of Victor Hedman. There's this one sent the other way off of Tkachuk. Right to Freddie. Freddie with a little bit of a skipper. as this goes to the left side red line. Now an opportunity for Spetch, gains the entry, throws it into the right side red line. Mikkola takes a hit. Tkachuk, another backhand right in the seam here for Florida, up a 1-on-2. Gain the entry across the right lane for Verhaeghe. Smartly just throws it in the corner. Here's an opportunity now for Marchand, that third line. This one will be flipped right to Carolina. Anton Lundell couldn't find it on his back skate. Good body contact. Knocks away Aho from the puck. Mikkola gets it up quickly, chips it off the glass. Verhaeghe taking a bunch of hits just to try to get this out of his own end alongside Lundell. Lusterinen now trying to find it. Marchand with a touch. And this will be picked off by Aho. Lob to Gustav. Left side red line. He gets fought off right in the corner. This bounces off the referee from Seth Jones' pass. Lusterinen tries to throw it right at the net. This gets blocked aside by the Carolina defense. Here they go. Stahl will spin. He gets pinned by Schmidt. Lusterinen doesn't find him. Svechnikov now. Jonah Gadjevich trying to find him. Here's Orlov. He'll spin. Orlov now. Gustav wants this badly. Give and go. Orlov one-timer. And Bobrovsky sees it all the way near the right side post. We'll step aside. This is an excellent start between the two. Very physical. But Gustav Forsling opens the scoring with a twisted wrister. 1-0. Cats.
Rogers Xfinity is here with the next generation of streaming. Now Keanu can spend more time watching all his TV. Yes! Come on. All his streams. Even the shows Keanu can't help but love. My list. The best entertainment experience is here with Rogers Xfinity.
This just in. Same game parlay from Bet365 just keeps getting better.
That's correct. It's now even easier to create your own unique bet. You can choose any market. Like hits, money line, totals, home runs. With the same game parlay, the choice is truly yours.
Download the app and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365.
The Capitals taking their story. The fourth line for Florida is giving them some, but their D have been fantastic. 13 goals.
So we have 13 hits in 8 minutes already. Florida has won the first 5 draws. Again, we're not even 8 minutes expired into the first period. And I look at Florida's road, maybe only secondary to Dallas. When you think about Colorado, Winnipeg, and now the Edmonton Oilers, again, 3 power play goals. And that third period with a 5 spot can amount to a lot. That was embarrassing for the Oilers because they kind of fell apart on the back end side. But when you look at Florida as well, they dispatched Tampa in 5, Toronto in 7, and now this might be their easiest matchup against Carolina. I know that sounds disingenuous to some of the Canes fans until they get to the Stanley Cup Final. And they're going to just continually wear you down and grind you. And Seth Jones said, no matter what, we're going to play our game. And we're anticipating a long series no matter what happens as we get a play with an offsides. 11:21 left to go in the first. So 2 shots is all we have so far. Hits now 7 apiece. Florida has the first 6 draws, and the block shots are 4-1. Rush chances 12, goals 13, and percentage of team goals off the rush at 25.5 are all first in the playoffs. If you're looking at that and you have a couple of eyes twitched up, I don't blame you because that reminds you of the Oilers of last year, does it not? but still also being able to get the depth scoring up and down the board. That's what makes this Cats team so dangerous. Again, they don't have the complete healthy body alongside Matthew Tkachuk, who's already got another assist. He's at playoff point per game, even with all of the injuries and that grinding style game that he's got. Carter Verhaeghe, excellent reverse hit on Orlov. These guys are fighting tooth and nail for every single side of this ice. We know that about Carolina against Washington and New Jersey when you won both of those in 5. But to see the Cats do it the same way and do it better throughout this series when they played in 2023 and now through this second game when they dominated the first, kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen. Again, able to use momentarily some LTIR money when Tkachuk got hurt in the Four Nations to get Seth Jones, get some smart ads and Brad Marchand, didn't have to pay him a lot. A little bit of a first-round pick, I believe, comes to the Boston Bruins should the Cats win the Stanley Cup, as this one gets deflected up and out of the playoffs, some skates and Marchand.
Download the Bet365 app.
So we're almost halfway through this first. Again, if this remains a solo call, I'll be sticking with Sportsnet the way through. I don't know if I'm going to be covering the Worlds yet on Saturday and Sunday. I think that's kind of my plan. That would be 8:30 in the morning between the USA and Sweden. It looks like Willie Nylander might make the trip and alongside Rick Gothenberg for them to play. Stahl off the drop. This one blocking in front of Bobrovsky. He thought it might hit his glove hand, and the Cats able to just brush this toward the left side dot, working behind Gustav Forsling off the stutter stop. Aaron Ekblad trying to find it. Fans wanted a penalty call, and they're not going to get one. That's something that the hockey guy says a lot on his YouTube channel. This will be a glove save for Bobrovsky. Easy one as he snags it out of the air. Tkachuk stuck his tongue out as he accidentally lost an edge and slid and took out one of the Hurricanes. That's what drew the fans into a frenzy. They gave a secondary assist to Sam Bennett. So I'm going to go with whatever that they have listed.
There's more to life than more. The richer than the fish. Scotiabank. First, we won GD Power, ranking Ram the #1 brand in new vehicle quality. Then we won 2025 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Now, we're throwing our weight around even more with the new Ram Heavy Duty. Well, you know what they say. You win some, you win some. And every win is inspired by the ones who drive us. Ram, built to serve.
Breaking news. The first contender in the marathon. Yes, we saw someone have run up to the front because it's a fight.
Talk about keeping your eye on the ball. What's up? Over our court. Niko!
Remember the moment. It's extraordinary at Bet365.
So if you're living in a cave and you didn't know what Game 1 looked like or the score of Game 1, this would seem odd to you.
Let's go a little reset here. Areas of dominance in Game 1. Ozone possession, 807 for the Canes, 33 shots, 17 slot shots, 15 cycle chances, 16 high danger chances, all in favor by a ton over the Cats. And yet they lost 5-2. So it kind of tells you 6-11 all-time best-of-7 series when losing Game 1 is Carolina. So not in good standing of history there. But the shot suppression that Carolina can provide is elite. But at the same time, you have that age-old argument of whether or not how much those shots really matter and how much that continues to do damage. Guardians have a 3-0 lead on the Tigers. It's a huge series. The Tigers are playing the Guardians at the right spot, losing 5 of 6. But Tigers don't want to lose too many games on that side because they'll start losing some of that lead in the AL Central. I believe they're about 4.5. Mariners are already up 2-0 on the Stros. That's pretty good. That's at Minute Maid. And toward the left side dot now, this pass will get deflected to the left side red line. Reinhart with a stick shot. Throw it into the corner. Opportunity now for Brent Burns. Wonder if he's going to retire at season's end. He's getting close at that point in his career. There'll be a flip. And alongside for Will Carrier, former Vegas Golden Knight, that moved on from Carolina. Again, they've lost a lot of the depth in Vegas. They're really beat up as they got smoked by the Oilers in 5. But that 1-0 in between Aiden Hill and Stuart Skinner, that was an excellent game. Vegas really fought hard, really on the other side when the Leafs did not. As it's Svechnikov, Rister, this one blocked beautifully by Niko Mikkola as he got that one with a skate blade. And alongside now Bennett, walking in is Carter Verhaeghe. He got canceled off to the right side red line. Spun around by Martin. Here's Matthew Tkachuk. Potentially off the inboard right at Freddie Anderson. This one hits Sebastian Aho. Clean him up right in front of the net. Florida forces another turnover. Bennett now. And alongside with Verhaeghe. And this will have to be a spin and turn now for Walker as Bennett punishes Svechnikov into the corner. This will be looped back around. Inside for Carter Verhaeghe. Right at the doorstep. And Florida scores. Carter Verhaeghe, we'll see if it bounces, if it's credit to his goal. But he had all day on the wraparound. Walker was getting punished in the corner. Then he goes and recovers, but it's too late in behind the net. Matthew Tkachuk also first to the celebration line. He might be getting another apple. As this will be sent back in behind the end boards. Good checking for Bennett. This one's picked off for Svechnikov. Now Verhaeghe with a wraparound opportunity. It's going to be Carter's goal. Carter Verhaeghe with another one in this series off the wraparound. And the Canes are in serious, serious trouble. Let me get Ian in on this cast. And this one actually, it might have went off Tkachuk's skate. I thought it was Verhaeghe's goal, but on that second look, I think it's Chuck E. Cheese. Either way, 2-0 for Florida. Verhaeghe's going to get an apple. And it's a couple goals already for the Cats. Ian, how are you?
Well, joining late. And, John, what do you think will happen first? Toronto making it back to the Eastern Conference Final, or the Carolina Hurricanes winning a game in the Eastern Conference Final?
As difficult of a question as it is, I know it's not a burn because, Ian, as you mentioned, that's the reality. And I would really have to think that Carolina would at least win a game in the Eastern Conference Final. But if they play Florida again, or if they play Florida at any point during Rod Brind'Amour's tenure, they might never win a game.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because any other opponent, I think the Canes are up 1-0 right now.
Sure. I don't disagree with you. I think, and you know this better than anybody, you've been joining in all the broadcasts. Again, there was madness in front of that Lundell trying to clear that out, and that's what created a previous scrum after. But let's get this straight, and we already know this, but Florida plays the same system that Carolina does. They have more top-end talent on offense, more top-end talent on defense. They have the better goaltender. Does Carolina have any advantages over Florida in this series?
I would have thought the power plays. I was hearing that Florida's power play, their penalty kill was their power play was questionable.
And we'll see what ends up panning out. But as I told Alec, maybe you see some reverse splits. Who knows? Carolina can try to wait. And we all said the same thing, Ian, on the side of we don't think Carolina was going to get swept. You look at those numbers from game one. All across the numbers side, Carolina had a big advantage. But there was still a point where Florida went 10 minutes without a shot on goal and then scored alongside Lusterinen. So I don't know what else to say here for Carolina. I'm thinking about covering the Worlds this weekend in between Saturday and Sunday, if this is the way that it's going to continue. As this will be spun now here for Barkov. off the spin and turn alongside Evan Rodriguez. I mean, this is desperate territory. I know it's game 2. I know it's just the first period, but Carolina really needs to find something else. Hell, if you listen to any of the stuff yesterday or follow along on the highlights, Ian, yesterday there was a second period in which the Edmonton Oilers dominated and up 3-1. And then, oh, by the way, they gave up 3 power plays in 6 minutes, get scored on every one, and give up a 5 spot.
Another team giving up 3 consecutive power plays to Dallas. Vegas, you got company.
Yeah, when you do that, and alongside, remember what happened with San Jose in Vegas that many years ago when San Jose absolutely tore them up off the major. Cannot give up any of these things, and you're not going to expect it to go back into your net. Is Mikkola now with Bennett. This will be spent back around after Marchand. And Matthew Tkachuk takes a reverse hit. Sam Bennett stays on his feet. Sebastian Aho trying to pry it loose. This looks like flies in a rib roast right now here for Carolina. Just trying to go ahead and get this puck, but the Cats are right there too. This goes all the way into the Canes' end. And I have to start this again here for Jacob Slavin. Take this one cross ice. Be sent back around now for Mikkola. Aho trying to throw the body. And this will be tied up and alongside Zep Jarvis. Haven't been able to call his name. The shot board reads just 4-2. And Freddie Anderson in the last game stopped 15 of 20. And now he's only stopped 2 of 4. So all those talks now about Freddie Anderson as far as Conn Smythe consideration, that goes away as this one was play with a high stick. We'll see if we get a penalty here. I'll mark that in a moment. We'll take a break, and I'm looking at this right now. It's a boneheaded penalty for Andrei Svechnikov as they met in near the bench. He throws a punch right at Tkachuk's head. We take a break. It's going to be a Cats power play when we come back.
And it just keeps getting worse for the Cats.
Yeah, Ian, you really can't do that. And you know, for Rod Brind'Amour, I'm not disingenuous to him. I think he's one of the better coaches. The Canes are one of the better teams that we have. You can say the Florida Panthers are the ultimate buzzsaw. But you really got to play with your head tight on a swivel here if you're going to play against the Panthers. Otherwise, you're just asking to get buried.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Rod Brind'Amour, it really seems like he's the kind of coach to, you know, pound in your head the importance of fundamentals, which
Yes.
he does, and strong defense. But he just, I don't want. He's not a bad coach, but I feel like he's gonna be another legacy of failure. He's gonna be a Bruce Boudreau, you know. And it stinks because I like Rod Brind'Amour.
Yeah.
I like how he coaches, but it's just not working. And I don't know if it's because he lacks I can't even say lacks the star power, because they had Niko and he didn't want to play here.
I'm glad you brought him up, Ian, because I got to ask you a critical question of that. There was a reason Carolina traded for Mikko Rantanen, was there not? Because especially in a series like this, you talk about star power. Yes, they had some players, but they need top-end goal scoring. But Mikko Rantanen does not want to play in a grit and grind system, probably where his talents won't be as showcased as they would on other teams.
Yeah, and you know, I hate to fire a coach over that, but if no stars want to come play for your organization because of the method of the team, I mean, the goal of any team is to win a cup, and Carolina's time is running out.
Yeah, and again, Ian, I know we're not saying this as far as Sebastian Aho, because I think that he's a great player, and he probably is a 1C on this team. Oh, I can make the same comparison alongside Dylan Larkin, even though Sebastian Aho is the better player. But would Sebastian be a top-end centerman on a different team? Case in point. Again, I can have some of these conversations with you that I might not be able to have alongside Alec because I know he's got his heart alongside with Carolina. I don't blame him. This is a great team. They're going to make the Final Four consistently and be done. It is interesting that you make that comparison alongside for Rod Brind'Amour because you're right. Do you really want to fire a coach that's been on the top four side just because they can't beat the Florida Panthers? Or is it something more than that? Because you know what? It honestly could be something more than that.
Well, okay, are we back in the action yet?
Yeah, we are, but you can interject if you want.
You know what? I think we're coming up on the intermission. I'll save my thoughts for then.
Okay. Stahl off a 1-on-2. Here's the drop. Big save, Bobrovsky. That was short-handed. Evan Rodriguez now 2-on-1 rush. He pulls and drags. And this one's blocked. Does not hit Bennett. Hit one of the Canes in the face. Now for Verhaeghe toward the right side. Curl and drag. His shot gets blocked. Goes right back to him. Scores! It's probably over. With 4:10 left in the first. Verhaeghe's got another. Oh my goodness. The Cats are cooking.
I'm going to have a lot of thoughts. I do want to talk about the AL Central at the break, but we need to address this further.
Yes, we do. I can't wait to hear your thoughts because I think we're going to have a very real conversation, Ian, and I really appreciate your company because I don't want to say anything bad about Carolina. It's really hard to say anything bad about this organization. I think they're really well run. I think they do things the right way. But let me have another conversation about this. Freddie Anderson, that's 3 goals now on 5 shots. That's going to get you pulled. I'm sorry. Tomas Nosek, as this one goes the other way now. This is a bludgeoning because you know what? Last time these two teams met a couple of years ago, I know you had them at the Tkachuk 4 OT, double OT, OT. Those were killers, but those were all 1-goal games. Differential now has already been -6 for Carolina in these 2 games, and they are just searching for answers. 3:35 left to go in the first. As I was trying to see if the crowd was going to boo, I doubt it. It's going to be iced here against the Cats. I'm going to refresh this here for ESPN because I think they give the wrong names. I think it's for Verhaeghe, not Bennett. That one's not done officially yet, so I'm going to wait until I type that one in.
Well, it's funny because I'm going on the NHL app and they're also saying Sam Bennett.
Okay. So we'll stick there along.
Oh, wait, never mind. They just changed it to Verhaeghe.
Okay, because that's what I initially had on my call. I don't want to steer everybody wrong, but Carter Verhaeghe from Bennett makes a lot more sense. This will get iced again, and that's what I see here at 15:50. Appreciate that, Ian. I wanted to make sure. And sometimes I will get some things wrong. I'll be the first to tell you there, but it looked like Carter Verhaeghe got it off his own rebound again. So that's his. It's another goal for Verhaeghe in back-to-back games against Carolina. Now all of a sudden he's got his 6th of the playoffs. Jonah Gadjevich now will throw this into the right side corner and alongside the Cats. 3-0 lead, and I'm kind of wondering where this game's going to go. I might have to interject and do some basketball play-by-play if this keeps up, as this will be sent toward the left side red line. Drop now alongside for Roslovic. Stahl gets all spun around. Jack will get it back. Orlov can't play the carom. He was wide open. He should have been able to get a stick on that. And we'll have to start again as Rod Brind'Amour squatted up in the corner and lose possession. That was not very good. Now the other way off the backhand is Freddie Anderson to watch this go near the left post. And this will be sent back down the end boards. I wonder what Alec is doing tonight, Ian, because I imagine he's not having very much fun as this gets iced at 2:38.
I don't know. I hope whatever he's doing, I hope it's not watching this. Like, really. I mean, this is Again, I'm going to talk about this at the intermission, but I will say this. The St. Louis Blues lost in the first round, but I will say I'm proud of the effort they gave. They lost by 1 goal in nearly every game they played at Winnipeg and blew them out at home. And without Dylan Holloway. I still contend they had Dylan Holloway, they win.
I think you're right. I think we saw a lot of good things there for the Blues, and I even look at it in this series. I know they would have to meet in the Stanley Cup Final, whether it be Canes and Blues, but I think the Blues have a lot more scoring prowess than the Canes do. 2:15 left to go in the first, as this will be sent back around again. And these dark black jerseys kind of looks like a funeral here for Carolina. As this gets iced again against the Canes, we'll get another stoppage at 2:08. Give me an opportunity to type in these other notes. They're showing it on the Sportsnet side. I just want to repeat this here. And alongside for the Cats, they have a 41% power play on the road so far throughout this. So, again, Carolina takes 1 penalty, and not a very good one, alongside Svechnikov, as you get a rough against Matthew Tkachuk for no reason whatsoever near the bench. And at 2:08 left to go in the first, Carolina with 3 shots has as many as Florida has goals, as we're going to get set to press on here. I have to say it that way because that's what's in front of me. It is Forsling, Tkachuk, and Verhaeghe inside of the goals. Again, ESPN keeps flipping it across, and I'll get the official once we get that all locked down at the end of the night. As this one will be won by Lundell and then sent back down. Big hit for Nate Schmidt as he was trying to close out a potential breakaway. Canes fans have been doing a lot of booing because they feel like they should be getting some calls. But physicality has been the name of the game in this first period. I'm not surprised in between these two, but the Canes have been trying to play the same way for the Cats as far as the hits. And I don't think that really fits too well. They're playing right with their hands. Lusterine and forced the steal. Bounced off Lundell. Picked up across center ice now for Jordan Staal. Stick left Gustav Forsling, one of the very best in the business. Staal going back to try to pick up his lumber. Marchand, he might get an interference call because as Carolina was going to try to pick up their stick, Lundell was kicking it away and having some hijinks on the other side as Matthew Tkachuk looks a little inquisitive on the other end. I'm getting a Sportsnet feed alongside with Marchand as he has the stick there in front of Carolina, and he's just getting in their way, stick lifting, stopping them, intentional little gamesmanship. That should be a penalty, but I'm going to see if it's going to be called.
I'm curious, but John, if this penalty is called in favor of Carolina and they get a power play, they need to score before the period ends.
Yes, they do. Ian, I'm right there with you. I don't think you can afford to wait. Carolina is indeed going to get a power play as they're in Ekblad now, having some words and alongside with the Zebras. Again, I haven't seen it officially go up on ESPN yet. Right now, they're saying a too many men bench minor against the Cats. I really think he could have went either way. If that's what they saw, then that's fine. But the Canes fans are still booing, and what I can only assume would be the Marchand gamesmanship. So it's Aho, Jarvis, Blake, Svechnikov, and Ghost. And as Ian mentioned, with 1:20 left to go in the first, it's probably time for the Canes to score right now. They can't afford to wait too much longer, not even alongside the period change. 10 for 36 on the power play. Not awful numbers for the Canes by any means, but they really got to get it going now. It's going to be their best chance. Ghost head for Svechnikov. This bounces to Bobrovsky. Expertly uses the glass rolling puck. Stays in, though. Big hit against the end boards. Tkachuk is going to serve the minor. 13 of 42 is the penalty kill for the Cats in this playoffs. This will be sent the other way now. That seems like a lot of penalties, but most of them I can promise you are fighting and everything else. It's Gustav Forsling alongside Listerine and Ghost. Take this one D to D. Jarvis was at the point. This goes back to Shane. Now to Sebastian Aho. He'll spin as this goes toward the left side red line. Running out of time in this first period is down at 20 seconds. Aho at the left point. Gostisbehere back skate. Aho's got a good spot to shoot. He does not. Leaves it to Jarvis off the 1T that's easily defended. Gostisbehere pivots. Right side dot. One more pass. Svechnikov plays it off the bumper. Ghost diving shot block here for the Cats. High slot now for Ghost. And they run out of time in the first. That pass to Jarvis was a curious one. Probably should have shot it there if you're Ghost at the beginning. But as we end the first, it's 3-0 Florida. And I am hearing the course of boos, Ian.
Yeah. Well, that was a good time as any. Continue this. Look, Brind'Amour is not a bad coach. Let's just get that out. He took a Carolina Hurricanes team that, quite frankly, their own city, the city and the state didn't care about. I mean, Trees come to our games gag was a real thing.
Right.
They had the record attendance lows for years after that cup win because they couldn't get it done. They couldn't field a team that would win. He comes in, builds this system, gets them back to respectability and a playoff contender. And that should be commended. However, you have a relatively young core still with a few of your guys in their prime. I still say they need to find a more permanent answer in net. They need to find what they had in Cam Ward, but someone else. But unfortunately, when Cam Ward was there and Rod Brind'Amour, they all won that cup. You know this, John. The game was different.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back when, that was back in the time when the Sedin twins on the Canucks were thriving, or you had the Mighty Ducks with Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry. You hit hard, and speed, while present, wasn't exactly the main weapon of the game. It was, if anything, it was a bonus if you had elite speed on your team, but you relied on hard hits and stifling defense, and that's the system Rod Brind'Amour plays. That is not a bad system for the regular season and the first few rounds of playoffs. They can't match what Florida does. Number one, big reason is their system relies on speed. I feel like they neglected size. Please tell me if I'm getting anything incorrect so far.
Go ahead, Ian, because I'm looking up some stuff while you're breaking it down. We're going to talk about it in a second.
So they have the speed, and they play a very good style of defense. It's just, while hockey is a game, I feel it is the ultimate game of parity. It is very rare that a team, if ever, can outperform high-end talent. We talk about we talk about those sweeps or the upsets by the 8 seeds. But let's look over that real quick. The Los Angeles Kings upsetting the San Jose Sharks. Those Kings had Drew Doughty, Dustin Brown, Andrei Kopitar. I think they had Ilya Kovalchuk. They were all, in their own right, elite players and high.
Yes.
Andrei Kopitar, especially high in talent. Oh, let's not forget Jonathan Quick.
Right.
That was high in talent. The Columbus Blue Jackets over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sure, they came out of nowhere. They had Sergei Bobrovsky, they had Artemi Panarin, they had I think they had Matt Duchene and Ryan DeZingle, and I think a young Josh Anderson. So they weren't a bunch of nobodies. They had a squad.
To your point, Ian, as I'm looking through some of this, Carolina is not going to be in a bad spot at season's end. I want to get to some of your points, though, because Dmitry Orlov, 33, 7.75 this year. He's a UFA next year. I don't think he comes back, or at least let alone back at that same number. 5.28 for Brent Burns. That's done after this year. That is about $14 million plus off the cap, plus the cap goes up $6 million plus. So about $21.5 million already available to the Canes on the back end side. And then everything else is locked up. As you said with Aho, good cap number, 9.75, age 27, as he's locked up for quite a while. Some of the young players that you talk about. Seth Jarvis, still just 23 years of age. Yes, it's a $7.42 million cap hit, but that's going to end up being good. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, 5 seems like a lot for somebody like him. But for Svetch, Aho, Jarvis, 27, 25, 23 respectively, good on the forward core. And even for Logan Stankoven, that's another good piece. But notice, Ian, and the same thing, I know you agree with this, I said good players to decent players. You just brought up franchise players. You just brought up all those guys in the LA Kings over that court. Carolina does not have that, in my eyes. They have a bunch of good system players, but they don't have anything other than that. And when you talk about Freddie Anderson and needing a replacement, I agree with you. $3.40 million is all he makes, though. And then it goes back down to $2.75. They're not going to get a replacement. Peter Kochetkov, $2 million. I don't think they're doing it because, for me, when they had Alex Nedeljkovic, and you're 100% right on Cam Ward, drafted there, and you got that franchise goalie, end up winning the Stanley Cup, that was beautiful. But ever since, with Alex Nedeljkovic, Peter Mrazek, I know they're not household names. They've been in the NHL, but they're not studs by any stretch of the imagination. Carolina has tried to play their goaltending, in my opinion, over the years on the cheap. And I think that has bent them a lot. And they want a lot of these guys to fit in the system, as you talked about too. And I just don't think that attracts superstars, as we mentioned earlier. And I don't know if Carolina is going to be able to make the changes they want as long as Rod Brind'Amour stays their head coach. Yes, they're going to be a good team. Yes, they might continuously make Eastern Conference Finals, but this might be their ceiling.
Yeah, and it sucks too, because I mean, I like how he plays his game. I like how he, coaches his players. His players, unless they don't agree with his system, his players play for him and with him.
Yes.
And I respect that, but it's just, and what it also doesn't seem like. Is that just me, or does Brind'Amour not refuse, but seem reluctant to make drastic adjustments when something isn't working?
My thought in my heart, Ian, is fundamentally yes. I think you hit that right on the head. That's how I've always felt about Brind'Amour.
Yeah, I mean, now, don't get me wrong. For a team that needs to be on the up and up. I mean, if he wasn't coaching the Hurricanes, I think he'd have been a perfect candidate to help give rise to your Red Wings. A young core with veteran pieces like that. I think he would have been good for a while just to get them on their feet and in the playoffs.
As you said, Ian, make no mistake about it. If Rod Brind'Amour was let go by Carolina after the season was done, he'd be swooped up in the next 24 hours.
You know what? Probably San Jose.
I think he could get a job wherever he wanted to. I have that much confidence in Rod Brind'Amour. And I know, as we've talked about, it's a lot to ask when you're playing against the Cats. I just want to break this down really quick because we've been talking about kind of where the teams are at. Florida is going to be in an enviable position either. I mean, they could get 2 out of 3 years of the Stanley Cup like the Bolts did when they lost in 2022 alongside the Avalanche, but that was in the middle of that run, 1 in 2020, 2021. But Barkov, Tkachuk, and Reinhart are around 30 years of age. Tkachuk will be turning 28. Them just a little over $9.5 million. I know Barkov's at 10, but rough average between the three is about $9.5 million. Those are pretty good cap hits. Brad Marchand will be done after this year at $3 million. That's part of the buyout. Carter Verhaeghe will jump up to $7 million, but again, he's only 29 years of age. I know those guys are starting to get past their prime, but the Cats are in a pretty good position with their high-end talent. Seth Jones at the $7 million cap hit. He's signed for at least for a little bit longer for the next few years. He's already 30. Ekblad will be turning 30. He's a UFA. That's probably the only guy that Florida needs to make sure that they get signed. Everyone else in their core is pretty good. And as Ian mentioned, just one more year for Bobrovsky. He'll be 37 at the time, 38 in the time season's end 2 years from now. But again, the Cats about to hit 30, 31 years of age for the most part in their collective, but yet all their guys are signed. My only worry for them is the extent of the amount of playoff hockey they've played over the years, but Paul Maurice is an elite coach, and I don't think the Cats are going to go anywhere, at least for a couple more years.
You know what, though? That'll be fine because they already have the Stanley Cup. They're in a prime position to win it this year. You know, the fact of the matter is they made a boom or bust trade with the Flames to get Tkachuk.
Yes.
It boomed. And you know what? That was their goal. And, you know, if the Panthers organization is smart when they realize that their core is going to be aging out, they'll try to find a way to sell off those pieces, get draft capital, and hopefully by then, the next round of prospects will have made it to the show.
And you're absolutely right about that, Ian. And the same thing for Bill Zito, their GM. It wasn't a long time ago that the Cats, you talk about Carolina and their structure and getting people to come to their games and all that too. Cats have had the same damn problem until Bill Zito and everyone else started to figure that out and they made that trade. Florida was pretty bad for a long time.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, I think out of all the teams that got nailed during the Vegas expansion draft, Florida got hit the hardest. Because you didn't give up one. You gave up 2 players that were integral parts of the first year of that team and the eventual Stanley Cup that Vegas won.
Yeah.
And who beat you? The 2 players who came back and beat you in the finals to get that. Now, and again, so next intermission, I do want to talk about the AL Central, but I want to continue this because for the time we have, because it is a good conversation. At some point though, look, if Carolina wants to take that next step, with Rod Brind'Amour, you know who Rod Brind'Amour is? He's Andy Reid, if you, for football fans, before he was the multiple time Super Bowl winner with the Kansas City Chiefs,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid had a penchant for choking. He did. Whether it was the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship, or just the playoffs in general, he had a legacy of failure. That's why Eagles fans weren't mad to see him go. Now, here's the thing. Yes, drafting Patrick Mahomes was a big part of why he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. What else made him a championship winning head coach is he started to adjust. He started to see that when things didn't work, he had to do it differently. You want a perfect example of that? Look at the second, not this past Super Bowl, we got crushed, but the season before. Andy Reid has always relied heavily on the pass, especially with a big arm like Mahomes. The receivers were dropping balls left and right. What did Andy Reid start doing? He pounded the rock more than he had ever done in his coaching career because he knew that's what was working. They said, oh, we can't hit the deep shots. Okay, I'm just going to cut you up with my running back and use the middle of the field and make it my canvas and let Travis Kelce be the paintbrush.
Yeah.
He adjusted his game plan in order to win, and he did that for the playoffs too. He knew how to game manage, or he figured it out. Rod Brind'Amour, if he's going to win, he needs to realize his method is not going to work 100% of the time.
Ian, I think that's a beautiful expose you just laid out alongside for Andy Reid and between the Eagles and Chiefs in comparison to Rod Brind'Amour. Because you're right. You got to be able to make changes. You're at the point where Andy Reid was considered a great coach, and because of the adjustments in the team and everything else, and Patrick Mahomes does play part in it, as you said, it's turned him into a legendary one. And Rod Brind'Amour, if he could make some of those changes, probably could still do that. But as you and I have talked about, I just don't know if it's going to happen. But maybe a change of scenery, maybe might change that. But I don't know if Carolina's going to do it. They might be reluctant, as we talked about, because they've been consistent with Final Four team. Let me just give you this quick little update here before we get into the second. The Thunder have a 28-23 lead over the T-Wolves. Right now you got 6 from Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. And on the other end, Chet Holmgren's got 7. Shea Gilgeous already 3 of 3, 11 minutes, 8 points. Admittedly, Alec and I, once that game got out of hand, about 3 minutes or so left in between Dallas and Edmonton, we did flip over to the overtime to see Tyrese Haliburton hit that shot. And I can't claim the Pacers for my own because, again, I'm part of Michigan Pistons and all that. I love them dearly. But I did say I do like the Pacers to take the Knicks out. And, again, I've been disrespectful, unfortunately, to the Knicks because I didn't think they would even beat the Pistons, let alone get past the side of the Celtics. But we will see what ends up happening there as far as Game 2. But that was big for the Pacers.
Yeah, I still have Thunder versus Pacers for the final.
So you're on the same boat with me. Alex on the same boat with me. Again, don't look at any of the other. Again, I don't put officially brackets down, but if I had to pick anything in the NHL, I lost a lot of my stuff in the first round because those 2-3 matchups were held. So let's get into this play-by-play. As this is sent back in behind the inboards. And on their own power play, Carolina has iced the puck. 24 seconds left to work with on it as Reinhart off the drop from Ekblad. As they were showing Ekblad there, Reinhart got a little bit of a knee-to-knee in terms of the previous contact, and we saw him, I think, from the first period go to the bench. Aho, 41 hits in the 2025 playoffs. That seems like a lot. 4 tonight, as it's 18 seconds left to go on the first power play for Carolina. The too many men's being served by Chuck E. Cheese. Tomas Nosek. Now we'll work the other way. We sent back in. So Carolina's going to get turned away, but Seth Jarvis now. He'll skating across the logo, racing across the left wing. Wait for Jackson Blake. This will get punched in the corner. Svechnikov, no shots on that power play. And that can't happen. As this goes back in behind the end boards. Too far for Aho now. And this will be sent back around for Aaron Ekblad. Gustav Forsling, always mentioned he's one of the very best in the business. Right out in front to Aho, look what I found. My goodness, that puck pinballed right in the middle of the Panthers zone. Aho was the only one on the planet to be able to pick that one up. Carolina didn't get a power play goal, but they got what they needed with 19:09 in the second. Forsling's pass in behind the inboards bounces, and it goes Aho to Bobrovsky one-on-one. I'm going to get another camera look at this. Forsling was hurried. This puck bounces off the Panthers, goes right to Aho, and he blows it past Bobrovsky. That's crazy. 5-hole from distance. So Carolina scores. The shot board is 5-4. Paul Maurice having a look on the iPad just to see if there was any sort of offsides. I don't think they're going to challenge that. They just want to see really how the breakdown is going to happen. Now they are taking a timeout. And I did say offsides initially. I'm going to look here on Sportsnet if that is what they're going to try to do. The reason you take a timeout is usually if you're going to challenge for offsides if you need more time. They're still talking about it. So I'm going to type this in real quick. From a hurried Forsling pass. And they're saying maybe off the entry from a Jackson Blake to Jarvis. I'm going to put that on the recorder in a second. That could be challenged. So let me reiterate, and then I'll have Ian jump in here. So as far as the official recording side, the Forsling pass into the Aho turnover, that would have been a goal. That's fine. But Paul Maurice just took a timeout for challenging the play that led to it. Jarvis and Jackson Blake looked like Jackson Blake could have been a skate stride offsides unless he lifted that right leg. Paul Maurice took the timeout, and now we're going to go to the Zebras for a challenge to see if this Aho goal is going to stand.
Oh, sweet. Oh, my God. It never comes easy.
So we're going to look at this now on the Sportsnet side. We'll see if I get another feed. So Tkachuk, this is a rolling puck. That's not going to help there either. So disregard that. If I get anything definitive, I'm going to cut in here. I was just typing in some of the other notes. Since I got Ian here with me, I can do that a little bit with Alec. I can't necessarily type away as much, but I also don't want to be mean to Ian when he's got points he wants to make. So we're going to get a look here and alongside with the challenge. Offsides. Jackson Blake entered offside by a stride alongside with Jarvis. So Maurice takes the TO. Now this camera shot we're getting on Sportsnet looks like it's at 180p. I don't even know if that's a correct term. 240p would be the lowest resolution I know, but I'm not sure what they're looking at there. But the one I saw before that was Jackson Blake and Seth Jarvis, where that one looked more definitive. So no goal. Aho is going to get turned away, and it is offsides. So we're back at 3-0. That's brutal. Sent back in behind the inboards now for Jacob Slavin as we're underway. There'd be a good finish of a hit there alongside for Mikkola. And back on the bumper on their own end is Jacob Slavin. Try to go left to right. Good cancel off. Mikkola had to skate 150 feet the other way. This is coughed up, but Mikkola able to get a stick on it. Away from Martinook. Jordan Stahl, right side of red line. Jordan Martinook still trying to push the other way on his backhand. Try to reverse ice. His flipper to the corner. Long time tied up with there with Carrier and Stahl. And the left side dot. Now Walker able to step up behind the net. This is canceled off again by the Cats. And this will be an opportunity for Carolina just at the line. Holds it in. Wrist shot blows it way wide. And this will be picked up by Carolina now for Logan Stankovic. Try to shovel it into the corner. Cats will at least gain the left side red line and start again as they'll pull the rosters back up. Opportunity now for the former Winnipeg Jet Columbus Blue Jacket and Jack Roslovic. Throw it in the left side corner. Now D-to-D. Shane Goss to spare. Thought about it. We'll send this one from right to left. Here's a chance from Stahl. This will be closed off with the right pad of Bobrovsky and then flipped up on a play over the glass. We're going to stop it at 17:40. Somebody is banged up over there off the shot block, and we'll see what happens. Walker, he got reverse blown up by the Cats. That was a big, big hit by A.J. Greer. My goodness, took him out. 34 hits in the 2025 playoffs for the former Flame. One today for A.J. Greer. He's always a fourth liner in name only, but he fits the bill. That was a big, big hit that was just taken the other way, and A.J. Greer delivered it. This is in across the Canes logo. Tkachuk battle off the one-on-one. He just gets pushed off the puck. Shot board is 5-4 Florida, and Florida scored 3 times in that first special. I thought he had one off the giveaway from Forsling, but it was deemed offside, so good time out there for Paul Maurice. Again, he was the former Canes coach when they won the Stanley Cup. As this will be sent back in amongst the other way. Carter Verhaeghe, now off the stick shot, former Lightning man. As this will be pushing the corner now for Sam Bennett. Bennett now Verhaeghe right in front, and he tipped it just over the left side post. He tried to one-hand tuck that to make it 4-0. Seth Jarvis off the drop now at the point. This will be a give and go from Svechnikov. He can't chase it in the corner. Forsling double teamed. And Ekblad now, Sebastian Aho on his backhand. Carter Verhaeghe, excellent move. We'll just flip it toward the right side red line and send it in. Freddie Anderson will stop it, but he might not be able to get around Barkov. And this will be flipped all the way back down the ice. It's going to be blown dead against Carolina. They got to stop icing the puck. Let me give you some of the updates. So, I mentioned that the Tigers would want to play the Guardians because they've lost 5 of the last 6. Well, Guardians are giving it to the Tigers right now, and Jack Flaherty is going to lose another game. That's the one guy that really hasn't picked up this year. Tigers are still going to have the best record in the league at 33-18, but they got smoked today, 7-0. Mariners and Astros are tied at 2. That's got some AL West implications. I know Ian and I are going to talk more about the AL Central in a second. I want to see what he's going to throw across when we get to the next intermission. This will be knocked away by Kulikov. A couple of stick battles by the offense here now for Florida. And they'll take Gostisbehere right out of the zone. Excellent work. Barkov enough to drop. I don't think he was onside. No, he wasn't. 16:09 off the offside entry. Not a lot of games today on the baseball docket. You know what? I was mentioning this as far as the recorder a couple of weeks ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago now. And then the Athletics were about 5 or 6 games above 500. Now they're in free fall mode. They're 22-29. They lost again. Angels win 10-5. And another team we're going to have to talk about, Ian, is what the hell is going on with the San Diego Padres. I have to do that in the break because they've been getting smoked. As we get another icing, and the Cats will pick it up alongside Lundell.
Yeah, we do have a lot to talk about in the intermission. We'll start with our home base, and then we'll expand.
It's
actually, John.
Yeah.
I know this isn't really professional, but if this game gets really out of hand, I mean,
I can always flip to the Thunder game if it gets way out of hand. This will be the opportunity now for Brad Marchand. Toward the right side, flipped at Anderson, and this will be knocked away by Roslovic. I just want to see Carolina able to push for offense at one point. That's the one thing that really bothers me when I'm watching them right now. Freddie Anderson gets knocked over, and then another big hit. Roslovic finishes off in front of the net. They clean up Luostarinen. Ozone time for the Cats is currently at 40 seconds. Tkachuk throws in the corner. Freddie Anderson slowly stop it. Again, he's only made 4 saves, Freddie Anderson, all 4 for Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky hasn't had anything to do. And that's how it was 2 years ago, essentially, against Carolina. I know it was 31 out of, 33 yesterday, or the other day alongside for Bobrovsky, but the shot totals just look inflated because Carolina shoots from everywhere, and now they're not getting any of that. Here will be an opportunity for Jacob Slavin. It's essentially a 1-on-3. He'll backhand it. And behind the goal mouth, Tkachuk's pass turned right over, and Bobrovsky, as this was closed off. This was from Stankoven toward the right side red line. There's a spin and turn from Nate Schmidt. Again, he was one of those pickups and alongside from the Winnipeg Jets. He signed one of those almost vet mins for Nate Schmidt. He's been really good and alongside for Bill Zito's squad. Sam Bennett. Now we'll push the other way. Bennett's wide open. He's got Schmidt with him. Here's a wrister. This one partially blocked by Carolina. Got right out in front of it and saved Freddie Anderson. 14-10 left to go in the second. Forsling. Slap this in behind the end boards. This will be slow back down. Brent Burns, a 40-year-old, will throw this across center ice. Here for Gustav Forsling. And on the glass now for Tomas Nosek, leading for Barkov as Paul Maurice is mixing up all his lines. He's sent back now for Barkov off the backseat. Good leap by Gustav Forsling, keeps it in. Shopward again, still 7-5, but 3 goals here for the Cats already in the first. And this will be sent back down. Not iced, as that gets negated from Sebastian Aho. Gustav Forsling's pass gets picked off by Ghost for the right side red line and sent in Bobrovsky. No problem here for Gustav Forsling behind the net. Good positioning. Puck on a string here for the Cats as they've been able to exit from zone to zone and get started. And really now, at this point, and then I'm thinking that they're already up by 3. We're almost at the halfway point in this game. Carolina is already at the point where they don't need to press. They could make this as low event as possible. And if Carolina keeps it up, I know this is me kind of stretching it all the way out, Carolina might only end up with 15 shots in this game. A 2-on-1. Lundell, Marchand tries to throw it back over, and the second opportunity off the pass gets saved with the backhand off the stick of Freddie Anderson right at the net. Marchand just sails it wide, and this will be handcuffed right across the Cats logo. Lundell gets it again. Here's up to Luostarinen, a glove save for Freddie Anderson. A couple of careless turnovers for Carolina. We'll take a break.
I gotta be honest, John. This will get to the point where I'd say that, there's still a way for Carolina to get back into this.
Yeah, totally.
But
Yeah,
I mean, any momentum they get is just squashed.
Yeah. It's cut off right at center ice, offense, defense. I mean, if they hold the puck in for more than 2 to 2.5 seconds, it's going to result in a turnover because Panthers are right there. They're forcing steals. And as we said, with them already being up by 3, they're scoring quick goals. Let me give you the reset for anyone else that listens late or joins them late or whatnot. In the mix, it's at 1:17. So right at the start, 11:41, right in the middle of the period from Tkachuk, and then at 15:50, for what they've given to Bennett. They've switched between Bennett and Verhaeghe. I'll keep refreshing that and go with what they give at the end. But a 15-50 on the power play. So they scored early in the period, they scored in the middle, and they scored near the end of it. And that might be just daggers inside for the Hurricanes. And again, I'm saying that with 12:38 left to go in the second.
Yeah. Man, it is tough right now. I'm trying to find. Look, Hurricane fans, I hope your boys prove me wrong. I hope your boys come back and the brass bonanza will ring out all across the league. But I'm having a hard time believing right now.
Let me ask you this question, Ian, and I know that I'll get back into the play-by-play when we get some more pertinent stuff. Again, the face-offs were 6-0 for the Cats. Now they're 15-15. But when you make the conference finals and you're one of the 4 left, are you close in your eyes?
If you get swept, no.
Because they were already swept 2 years ago. They lost every single one of those games by 1 goal. As excruciating as you can get, but they got swept. And they may get swept again.
Yeah. And the other part of it is, look, if you push it, now if the Canes come back and push this to 6, hell, 5, win a game, and I will say you are closer than you were before.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I'll go one step further and say you are a piece away from getting to the cup. But if you get swept again under the same coach with nearly the same team, you have to make changes.
It's really hard to argue against that, Ian. I know that we were able to talk about this hindsight 2020, but you and I have seen it over the years. You've been following hockey, hell, Alex Encyclopedia, you've been working with us and joining in, and I appreciate it. But we've seen the same thing with this team over the years. They have not changed much. Yes, they've gotten some other guys like Burns and Orlov and try to stretch out their defense and make it more well-rounded. But is that necessarily moving the needle for their offense? Of course not. So that's the thing that frustrates me. As we've talked about the system and everything else, do players want to come to play over there? Do they want to grit and grind it all the way down? Yeah, Taylor Hall would have been a great addition 10 years ago, but not right now. Yeah, he's going to fit a system in a role. But you need somebody that's going to be able to get you 100 points. Yeah, it's fair to ask, can you get that in Rod Brind'Amour's system? Probably not. But when they had an opportunity, I'll give it to you like this last year. Jake Getzel wanted to stay. Carolina didn't offer him the money, and he went to Tampa. So I don't know what else to say because I think Jake Getzel is a superstar offensive talent. He's legit. He's the type of guy you would need. And he had, I think, 7 goals or something like that in the previous run that they had in the playoffs.
Yeah, I can't remember if they were just strapped to the cap that year and they couldn't get extension done. But I think one thing is also clear. I don't know who's going to be the prize-free offensive free agent. I'm not that knowledgeable on free agents right now. But one thing is clear. Without the Niko Rantanen extension hanging over your head, you have the cap space to do something. Depending on how they did in these finals, I was thinking they could try and get adequate depth. But it's quite obvious they need to go big game hunting and get a headliner. Someone to pair with Aho or take over as the first line center and have him be the most high-end second line center in the league.
I'm going to get to your point that you just made about UFAs because I think that's upcoming in 2026. So that's going to head right into the 25-26 year where I believe it might be after this, but Connor McDavid, Kel McCarr, and some of those other guys will be available. I'm not saying Carolina is going to get them, and I'm not saying you should hold out for that because we've known the Knicks on the other side for the basketball line always hold out for these guys and never get them. But there will be a free agency class that is one of the very best of the best. It's 2026. Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel are your top centers. So that gives you an idea, and alongside with Kel McCarr, as I'm looking at that right now. So we'll see what Carolina can do. And to keep in mind, as Ian mentioned already, we talked about the cap going up. The next 3 years, it goes up about $7 million, and $6.5 to $7 million per over the next 3 years for everyone. So Carolina is going to be in good standing as far as the cap. This is Marchand. He'll go ahead and try to get this out of his own end. Krulkov now joining on the front near the left side red line. Flip it in. We've officially gotten through halfway of this game in regulation. And take a wild guess on the shot board. Just 16 total shots. Florida's got 11 of them. Carolina has just 5. Jack Roslovic, as this one will get intercepted. It feels like Carolina might have an extra player on the ice. They're closing off all the space. They're not allowing Carolina to get started at any point. Here's an opportunity. This is a good keep in and alongside for Florida. And this will be tossed back aside from A.J. Greer from Freddie Anderson. Forsling, hold the line. What a beautiful stick chop. Throws it in the corner. Opportunity now for Greer to throw a hit, and this goes up and on a plane to the benches. We'll step aside for a T.O. Yeah, if you're Carolina and you hold up hope for 2026 free agency, again, some of the names I'm looking at this online: Connor McDavid, Panarin, Eichel, Ovechkin, Natchez, Kyle Connor, Laine. On defense, John Carlson, Trouba, Fowler, Ekholm. Sergei Bobrovsky's too old, so I can't even throw that in there. Stuart Skinner, I don't think that matters. These are UFAs. So, yeah, a lot of guys that would be transformational, but I don't think anyone that would sign with the Hurricanes. RFAs in 26, Robo, Jason Robertson, Zegras, Connor Bedard. You could make them an offer, likely not going anywhere, but a huge, huge class upcoming in 26. My question, and I don't have an answer to this, but I'm throwing it out there. If Connor McDavid does not win the Stanley Cup this year alongside his Leon Draisaitl, does Connor McDavid stay in a Canadian uniform? Does he go to the Leafs? Does he go to a U.S. team? Because he could go wherever the hell he wants.
To be perfectly honest, John, I don't know. I mean, for something that, well, first of all, the Oilers will sacrifice firstborn son before they let Connor McDavid go.
Right. And you're going to be prepared because I believe Austin Matthews right now is the highest paid player in the NHL. I think his cap hit's almost 12. I don't think it's at 12. Connor McDavid is going to be the highest paid player whenever that one's done in 2026. And if I tell you that Connor McDavid, with the cap going up over the next 3 years, wants to ask for $15 to $16 million, you know what? We just say okay. Because that's all you really can say when it's somebody like him.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't see Connor McDavid going anywhere because I can't imagine a scenario where Edmonton lets him go. And if he were to go anywhere,
do you think? Let me ask you this, because I don't want to ask you to pick a team because that's impossible. But let me just say it one way. Do you think he'd play for the Maple Leafs?
Go. If they shelled out enough money, probably.
They are sponsored by Milk and Oreo, so he'd get a lot of those, I guess. But I don't know if that matters to somebody like him.
So yeah, John, I have no clue because what would drive. Here's where I would say he would consider it. He would consider it if the Maple Leafs had a team that was on the cusp.
Sure.
And I mean, like, they would have to be beat. If they got beat in the Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals and they were going all in, yes, I think he would.
Because you could argue right now, Ian, I know kind of shocked us a little bit. I'll get into the play-by-play in a second, that it was a 3-0 series lead for the Cats. Oilers get to Game 7. They have the historic power play and this and that. This one's fought away by Anderson. Verhaeghe gets their first. But you could argue the Oilers are already on the cusp now. So and that's because of him and Leon and all that too. And they've had some good depth and stuff in the ads. But you're right. They would have to really, really be close. And if he's going to go to another team, I agree with you completely. They would have to be right there in terms of talent. Carolina has taken this last 3 minutes, as we've talked about, and really starting to get some shots on net now. Now, the majority of them have been blocked out in front of Bobrovsky, as this one will be pushed the other way. Cats did just miss a 2-on-1, and Mikkola throws it in the corner. But it'll be an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about that. And I do want to jump back in with you as far as the AL Central to get in the second intermission because I want to share your baseball thoughts. This will be flipped back down, not icing. Now the Cats will try to get this out of their own zone. It was the first press for Carolina in this game specifically. We're at 5:35 officially as this one goes off sides. But the Carolina press was about 8 minutes to about 6 minutes. They had a 2-minute press there. They did not score. A lot of those shots were blocked. Marchand from the corner goes off of Aho, hits Bobrovsky in the face mask, and will step aside.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? I'll just start this conversation. So yeah, Carolina, your job in the offseason, find you a headliner. I don't know who that would be. I don't know, John, if you can quickly look up who the highest rated free agent is going to be.
I can do that right now during the break. We were looking at 2026. We'll see if I can find NHL ones really quick. I kind of wonder with the cap going up as much as it is, if players and teams are going to hold out more for 2026 for the big names that we just talked about. Right now, again, I don't know if this, let me go to UFAs, not RFAs, just to make sure. So we know Mitch Marner is one of the biggest prizes. I'm not going to say John Tavares because he's 35 years of age. It would be Mitch Marner. He's 28. Brock Besser is another one of those names at 28. Provorov in Columbus, a D-man I don't think that they need.
No, especially not for a high price.
I'm going to say one for the Red Wings that I'm looking at right now that I think is pretty good. What about Vladislav Gavrikov, the defenseman for the LA Kings? I think he fits right in a top four side. Right now, he's got a $5.8 million cap hit, and he's only 29. I think that one makes a lot of sense. I think people will be looking at him. But as far as the high-profile names, it really is Mitch Marner and no one else. This is a pretty weak listing of names this year.
Yeah, no, Carolina, don't even think about it.
You'd say no to Mitch Marner?
No. Not after what we all saw.
I don't think he fits their system at all. I wouldn't go for him either, to be honest with you.
No, and quite frankly, even if he did fit the system, and the statistics may back it up, I wouldn't just no.
We got 4:45 left to go in our second period, and when I looked at that class too, and I looked at some of the UFAs for the Wings, I don't think the Wings are going to be making a lot of changes, and that's going to make fans around here pretty angry. But if I'm Steve Yzerman, you already did over the last few years, and between Comfer, Petrie, and Ben Sherratt, I'm not doing any more stopgaps, and I don't want to sign any more stopgaps. I'm just saying that as a diehard Red Wings fan. I don't think the Red Wings are in that position anymore where they need stopgaps. They need to make the playoffs and get some talent. So we'll see how that one works. I did see 4:41 left to go in the second, as we said, that Jeff Blashill, former Red Wing and the Tampa Bay assistant coach, is now the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. I scratched my head when I heard that.
Wait. Jeff Blashill is the head coach of the Blackhawks?
Yes.
You know what? At this point, remind me again, when did Jeff Blashill come in as the head coach for the Red Wings? Around...
We're talking back, and this is not an official one. We got to be thinking like the end of the Red Wings playoff runs, like 2015, 14, for about 3-4 years. And he did not have, and for the most part throughout his team, he did not have good talent on the other side. As Bennett's chance, this one gets denied by Freddie Anderson. Not a lot for him to do. And I know the Seth Jarvis, here's a 2-on-1, and this one gets deflected by the Cats. Let me jump back into that in a moment here. As this goes into the right side corner, here's a slap shot hit around the embankment. Carolina just trying to fire everything at the net now. And the Cats are just getting it out of the zone here with their Ekblad. They'll let down the corner. Now, I know that for Blashill, as we said, didn't have a lot of those good teams with the Red Wings, more of the tank commander. And with Joe Quenneville, all the high-end talent, you had Duncan Keith, Patrick Kane, Tays, also another dynasty there. At some point, I don't think tank commander is going to work anymore for the Blackhawks. They're going to want some things moving forward here for Connor Bedard. You might be able to get away with that for 2 or 3 more seasons, but after that, I think even with all the Stanley Cup runs and this and that, even the Blackhawks fans might start to lose some of their good graces. That's just me. As it's 2:35 left to go in the second. This will be chipped in off the glass, sent back in across the Canes logo. Walker will flip this one down. In Carolina, had a stretch from when Ian and I were talking about 8 minutes to 6 minutes, about 2 minutes on that side in the second, which they had a ton of shots, but 95% of them got blocked. That's why the shot board reads 13-7, and there's just not enough here for Carolina. Again, they're going to have to take what they got on the shot board now, and I would say do more than triple it in the third period. They only have 7 officially now. A.J. Greer wrapping him behind the end boards. Now to Nate Schmidt, high slot. This one tipped, and this will be knocked away. And alongside Jonah Gadjevich, who tried to get a piece of it, some fourth line time. Here's a 1-on-2 developing for Carolina. Off the drop, Robinson lets it go, and that pass does not hit. Right in front of the goal crease, Bobrovsky would have been down and out, but it's turned over. And the Canes cough it up in their own end. 1:35. This bounces off of Verhaeghe's stick shaft and brushed out of the air with a hand as it's Tomas Nosek trying to flip it out of the corner. Can't do so. Canes shovel it in deep. Jack Roslovic stutter step toward the right side red line. Eludes a hit nicely. Put it back in behind the inboards and picked right off by Verhaeghe. Cats backhand in the corner. In the middle of some changes here for Paul Maurice's squad. Pass is blown up from Burns. It breaks the stick right out of his hands. Stahl falls down. Here's an opportunity for Tkachuk off the drop from Bennett toward the left side dot. Tkachuk, wraparound attempt. He will pass it back out instead. Forsling, touch for Verhaeghe. He lets the wrister go. He missed it all. This one kept in now by the Cats. 50 seconds left to go in this middle frame. No goals in the second to speak about, but that's just fine for Florida. Here's Ekblad. Stutters at the line. He waits, shoots, looks for a deflection from Verhaeghe. Backhand! And this one scores right at the buzzer, pretty much. This was an opportunity for Bennett to wrap around, and that one definitely is his. 39 seconds left to go in the second. There was no goals to speak of in the middle frame until a shot from the point from Ekblad. Bennett wraps it around, finishes it off. Goodbye, Carolina, for game 2.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So you know how I mentioned before, as Ekblad's shot goes in the corner, it's Verhaeghe that picks it up. He throws it right to Bennett. This should be a slam dunk. I'm looking at the Carolina fans right now, and they've got nothing to cheer about. They got a lot to yell about. The shot board is just 15-7. Bennett, 8 of 9 goals scored on the road in 2025 playoffs. And if you're the Cats, isn't that exactly what you want? For all these guys, you just play the same way on the road. Here's a flip, and this one will be intercepted. Seth Jones was there with Lusterine. I'll get that typed in when we get another stoppage here, about 10 seconds. Ian and I are going to talk some baseball, probably look at some basketball as well. As this one goes into the corner, Florida commanding 4-0 lead after 2.
All right, so let's talk baseball. AL Central, the Tigers are a machine.
Yes, they are, Ian. I do want to say this about my Tigers, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. I think that they're going to make the playoffs. Yeah, we've probably known that since the end of April because they've been good. However, I have a legitimate concern with Detroit. It's not that Jack Flaherty hasn't won any games, which he really has, and he struggled there. They have some pitching injuries. They're still waiting for Beerling Meadows. Good things. They'll get them back. They need to get some more offense at the deadline, maybe even some bullpen help. I do think when Detroit makes the postseason, maybe they win around. Who knows if they get to the wild card and beat Houston like they did before, but I don't think it's going to be a long playoff run for Detroit.
Well, you know what? Who knows, right? I mean, with the hitting talent they have, it's absolutely a realistic proposition that they make a run. I mean, John, my Royals, the Kansas City Royals have the complete opposite problem. Their pitching is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Starting rotation is nails, including the 2 old guys. Well, yeah, the 2 old guys, Michael Waka and Michael Lorenzen.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw Seth Lugo in there, but I don't know. But, you know, they're also having to call up guys like Noah Cameron, prospects out of AAA, and he's nails as well.
Jesus.
You know, and the bullpen. Oh my God, the bullpen is amazing. I mean,
I'm looking to your point, Ian, and the second fewest amount of runs given up belong to the Kansas City Royals. Yes.
Look at the ERAs. There should be a way you can look at the ERAs of all the pitchers they have active. I can tell you right now, you won't find Lugo and Reagan's because they're on the 15-day IL list, just for minor precautions. But but they're insane too. I will highlight Chris Bubich.
I'm looking at his right now. He is exceptional.
Yeah. And it's amazing. The problem is they have the second fewest runs given up. They are, last I checked, 27th or 20th
Yes.
in the league when scoring. And the only teams that they are behind, that they are in front of, are the Pirates, the White Sox, and the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They just cannot score runs. Thank God they have, as you mentioned, the elite pitching staff that they do, because if they didn't have that, you could be talking about the Royals being one of the worst teams.
Yeah.
Because they just can't score, right?
Now, the thing is, look, everyone wants them up immediately. And obviously, I'm sure you've seen the clip, you've seen a highlight of Jack Taglione running around.
I've heard of the name, courtesy of MLB The Show, yes.
Yeah, well, first of all, the guy, when he gets on the ball, he'll hit 400. He'll hit 400. He'll hit tanks 450 feet plus. Yeah. And currently, his primary position was first base.
Yeah.
But they have him but they are trying him in right field. Now, everyone wanted him up immediately. I am not one of those people. I know that, just because he played in the SEC, which pretty much has been the cream of the crop for baseball prospects in recent memory, the minors are a different game, and the show is a different game too. You don't want to ruin this kid. You got something special. So now, if he's hitting 400 and hitting tanks in AAA, and he's not, and there's really nothing else you can improve on as a bat, because that's really what the Royals need right now. Sure, call him up at the end of the season.
I'm with you there, yes. Because I'm looking at this, and I wasn't aware, Ian, and it's a good call by you, that he was literally just drafted. He was a 6th overall pick in 2024. He only has 277 career minor league at bats. And again, that might stretch from A, AA, and AAA. Right now, he's currently with Omaha Storm Chasers, the KC affiliate. He's a big boy, 6'5", 250. He's 22 years of age. So yes, it's like one of those collegiate picks that you feel like is going to be ready sooner. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think you will see him as a September call-up. I don't think it's going to be any sooner than that. He needs to get a little more seasoning.
Yeah. Now, so John, real quick, and really we could talk more about this if Carolina doesn't do anything to come back. But one thing that today while I was at work, I had a little bit of free time, so I went back and looked at the trade history that the Royals have had from 2023 to now. And why I say that? Because that was, and actually you could say 2022, because that's when we got 2 of our reliable bullpen arms, young guys, Evan Sisk and Steven Cruz, who are both great. But 2023 is special Because that season, we signed a role to Chapman on a $3.5 million 1-year deal. You know, obviously he was going to be a trade chip. You don't sign a closer to that if you're not getting traded.
Right.
We got Cole Reagans from that trade. That was the first signature trade. Now, Texas got a World Series out of that. Don't get me wrong. We got our ace.
So another good aspect for the Florida Panthers is their
And
great
then
game. So no wonder the
it just
Carolina
keeps going
established pressure.
down the line.
One, if you have
A bunch of prospects that are thriving and even being, but not just prospects. Hunter Harvey,
Right.
this person.
Yeah.
We got those guys in trades. I mean, the way this team is built, it's great. Except they need to make a move for a bat sooner or later. Because there is a definite weak link in their batting lineup, and it's in the outfield. I don't know why Hunter Renfroe is still here, but he is not. He does not deserve a spot in that lineup.
Yeah, he's already getting long in the tooth to begin with.
Yes, and it's even worse. Just look at his batting average, and you'll understand.
Okay, so you got Minnesota tomorrow. I'm looking at this. Minnesota was coming off that real hot streak, and I am going to see what I can find. Right now, they're showing the probable. So you got Jonathan India, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvi, Garcia, Kevin Biggio, Michael Massey, Drew Waters, and Kyle Isbell. I mean, there's not a ton of guys in this lineup that I fear. I'll say it like that.
No, although you know what though, there isn't a definite guy at the moment.
I mean, Bobby Witt's a stud, right?
Oh well, yeah, Bobby. Vinny's taking some time.
Mm-hmm.
He's been getting better as of late. You also got to remember.
Long injury.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. An arm injury that he suffered near the end of last season. So, and came back for the playoffs.
Right.
So there's that. I mean, you know, Salvi's getting older, and you know, it's just. I will say one bright spot that was a surprise because last season he was just bad. Michael Garcia. Oh my gosh.
He's hitting 315 right now. Yeah.
In the leadoff spot, he's hitting 400. Yeah.
He's having a fine year.
Yeah. So that's a bright spot for the Royals. They just need to figure out that they just need to keep the line moving. Because they're not going to hit 10. They're not going to hit home runs. That's never been the Royals' game. Even in the World Series years. And, you know, their style of play works. Elite pitching, get hits, steal bases, score runs. Okay, score runs.
Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital.
In Washington, authorities called the
Hold on one second.
shooting of 2 Israeli embassy staff members an act of terror. The incident is adding to safety fears in Jewish communities.
Yes, there are more than one fatality to be found.
He has fluctuations with his bat, but I'm going to Kinga. If you look at Kyle Isbell's stats,
Then on YouTube,
He
follow
is.
hockey on CBC. Now, it's back to Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, when I say his stats, I mean his defensive stats. Let me see if I can find those.
Let me give you an update while Ian's checking that out. Again, it just kicked me out of the spacer for a moment, but I think everything else is good now. I'm going to get set to plug in my phone a little bit too. Probably had that warning message popping up, and that's why I did that. So let me give you a Timberwolves Thunder update. That one is at 11:41 in the third. The Thunder still have a 58-50 lead. They smoked the T-Wolves in the first game. Right now, it is 16 points for Ant, 7 of 18 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3. 11 points for Jaden McDaniels, 8 off the bench for Dante DiVincenzo. They're running a roster of 8 players. And right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP, he's having himself a great night. 6 and 9, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, just 1 turnover. Chet had 11, so now Shai's starting to take over, and 7 off the bench for Alex Caruso. So I'm looking at this right now from Sportsnet, and Denmark, yes, Denmark, has defeated Canada in the Worlds. They win 2-1. They scored 2 goals, I think, in a span of 3 minutes. It's the first time Canada hasn't made the semifinals in the Worlds in 15 years.
Wow, that is impressive. Not impressive. It's shocking.
It's not going well right now for Canada across the last few years.
No, it is not.
I might be covering the Worlds on Saturday and Sunday. If I do, if it's on an NHL network, I know the Saturday game between U.S. and Sweden, that's at 8:30 in the morning. The finals at 2:30, so I'll be a lot more awake for that than for Sunday. But the United States was supposed to play Sweden, and I believe William Nylander is going to join the team. So that's going to give them a lot more firepower.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to find someone put up a stat of Major League center fielders with I think it was defensive runs saved. And Kyle Isbell was in a tie for second, I believe, among all Major League center fielders. So
He's always been a good defensive player, but I didn't know he was that good, Ian.
He's gotten better.
Yeah.
He's definitely gotten better. I will say it's been, it's been a growing process. It's been a growing process. The Tigers went through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, anyways, so you guys can't seem to lose except for the rare occurrence that it happens. And actually, you know what? We're back. So if things start getting out of hand, we can resume this. Otherwise, let's see what happens.
Okay. I'm just going to give people the updates for what I saw in this winter here for Denmark and Canada as far as IHF. I'm going to see if I can activate this here. So for Denmark, I want to see who scored the game winner. It was Nick Ehlers. The Winnipeg Jet got the game winner to take out Canada. Who else scored for Denmark here? Frederick Duchau made 39 of 40 saves. So again, the goaltenders are not probably something that I'm familiar with. But as far as Denmark, of who's playing for them, Nick Ehlers is the top name. And I'm trying to see if there is anyone else that is NHL affiliate. and it does not look like it. And when I look at Canada in the Worlds, I still got commercials on my end. It was Travis Sanheim, Nathan McKinnon, Travis Konechny, Jared Spurgeon, Ryan O'Reilly, Noah Dobson, Mackenzie Weegar, Tyson Forrester, Sidney Crosby, Macklin Celebrini, Mike Matheson, Will Cooley, Adam Fantilli, Brandon Montour, Ken Johnson, Braden Shen, Philip Dano, Riker Evans, Porter Matone, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Jordan Binnington were the goalies. Jordan Binnington was fantastic today, 31 of 33. But all of that talent, and I'm going to look back on Denmark again really quickly, and the only other, okay, so Nick Jensen is 2, but the only other NHL player that I see on this team that plays full time was Nick Ehlers, and that's who Canada lost to today. That is not good.
No, it is not.
I'm going to pull up Sweden's roster too, because I might, like I said, I might be doing that. I just want to see what the USA and Sweden are dealing with. It'd also be good for Ian and I to look at that and see who's available for what teams and who does what. So we'll get into this. I'm going to get into the play-by-play. 1350, or my goodness, 1950 left to go in the third as this is sent in. Maybe I wish it was 6 minutes expired already, as it's Seth Jones put this in line, the kick plate now. Opportunity here. Sent back on the inboards. Again, I'll monitor alongside the scoreboard for the T-Wolves and the Thunder, because if this gets any more out of hand, I can definitely switch. I might not call the whole game because I want to save the boys for the weekend early, because I might be doing Saturday and Sunday. This will be sent back toward Bobrovsky, who'll hold from the point from Orlov. We get our first stoppage. Let me find this for the double IHF just for Sweden. I'm going to duplicate these so we can go over their rosters together, because I'm also interested to find out, because I'm going to have to do a little bit of the extra work. And then we'll see who USA trotted out there against Finland. Last game was 5-2 for them. We'll get that squared away in a minute once we get a stoppage. So Tomas Nosek lost the puck. This will get sent in now by Carolina. Again, we are only a minute expired from the third period, and Carolina has just 8 shots on goal. Dmitry Orlov fires it at the net. All sorts of traffic on the front. That was friendly fire against the Canes. Here's a rush the other way off a one-on-one. This will be gloved this side by Freddie Anderson from Nosek off the rush. We'll get another stoppage. Shot board now officially 17-8. But after Carolina, and I'm going to look back in my notes right now, had about 31 of 33, so 33 shots on goal in game 1. And I'm going to look back officially now what they have for the Hurricanes, which is going to be sitting. And my apologies here, because guess what? We've had a goaltending change. Freddie Anderson, his line is done at 12 of 16. Peter Kochekov, 1 of 1. They're going to give Freddie some rest. I don't think that matters too much, because Freddie Anderson really wasn't worked heavily, and I think you're grasping at straws. But again, 33 shots the other day. They have just 8 now. So how did that change so much, and what changed that much for Florida to dominate as much as they have on shots? Because again, the score line was 5-2, and now it's 4-0. It's being -7 as far as the differential, when again it was -4 when they met 2 years ago. 3 games that went in OT. One was quadruple, one was double. 44-31 the shot attempts officially for the Cats. So they've completely dominated this game too. And honestly, from what Ian and I have told you about, again, I haven't called the game all the way through because it's been the type it's been. A backhand play at the net, this one gets knocked away. And Kotniemi try to get a piece of it alongside Lustarin, who travels in the corner. But I have not seen anything in this game, and this is different from 2 years ago, but in this game especially, that leads me to believe that Carolina is going to win a game in this series. I know I couldn't say that with Alec if he was in here, because I know he might take offense to that, but that's really what my four eyes are telling me as we get another icing.
Honestly, I don't like saying stuff like that either, but I mean, good lord, you see this?
Why even make the move to Peter Tkachuk? It's not like Freddie Anderson was overworked. I mean, that's not going to do anything if you're Rod Brind'Amour, correct?
Yeah. I gotta be honest. I think a goalie change, though, it may not help, but at this point, what else do you do?
That's the only thing. Like I said, I think Ian, it's grasping at straws. I don't disagree. That might be the only thing you can possibly do, but it's not going to change anything in this series. I mean, if Tkachuk starts games 3 and games, I don't see that happening. I think he probably starts one of them, especially if Hurricanes go down 3-0 at some point a couple days from now. But it's not going to change anything in this series because Tkachuk doesn't move the needle from Freddie Anderson. You could say 1A, 1B all you want. I don't think Tkachuk's any better or worse than Freddie.
No. And at this point,
Go ahead.
I don't know.
No, I mean I'm speechless too. I don't know what else to say. Sometimes we get some broadcasting games like this. We've seen some 6-1s. Again, Ian was alongside both of us, alongside Alec and myself, and those were the worst games I've ever seen. This one is just a mismatch, is all I'm saying. But yet again, these teams are in the Final Four, and Carolina looks like they don't belong, courtesy of the Cats. This is how good they are. It's amazing, and I don't say this very lightly, but I said this in my open before Ian joined in. In between Tampa, who they crushed in 5, Toronto took them 7. Carolina is going to be the easiest matchup that they get that's left. This is standing behind the inboards now for AJ Greer, and I think we might get a penalty against the Grats and Greer. We'll see. 16:51 in the third. It looks like he's just going to go right to the sin bin. So Carolina should have a power play to work with. Seth Jarvis might have been the one that was clipped. Let me take a look at this right now. Because this was directly across. So that's just a cross check in half without the puck. So Seth Jarvis gets laid out. And then Tkachuk and Aho exchange words at the bench. I would say nothing new there for number 19, as he's had nothing but a smile on his face. And Greer is the one that goes to the box when he tripped Stankovic. So that's the call. The first one they showed was Jarvis getting the Christmas tree lights taken out underneath his head as he got smoked. So it's 0 for 1 on the power play for Carolina. It's their second. They did not have any shots. And now they fall backwards to Seth Jarvis. Loses the puck. This is a 1-on-2 for the Panthers. And this is blown high off a stick. Now Carolina gets a chance to start the other way. Call off the dogs here if you're Florida. I feel like they already did, and they still scored late alongside Bennett. Picked up now toward the right side boards. Here's a pass right out in front. They throw it right to the Cats. There was no Hurricane in sight. Is it stopped by Tkachuk? Put back in now for Shane Gostisbehere. Throws in the corner for Jarvis, and they're not skating with any sort of speed. It looks like quicksand. Here's Aho now. From Svechnikov near the left side dot, canceled off and alongside the boards. Just get some shots on net and do something. That's all I'm asking for. As this one goes to the left side boards. Picked up now for the Cats, Lusterinen. Good reverse hit. Stayed on his feet for a moment. Carolina finally gets it out of their own end. Here's an entry right up the gut, off the drop. This one just missed toward the left side post. And off the rush, Svechnikov holds the point and spun back around in deep. Cats, excellent work. Mikkola chipped this off the glass. Goes in the high slot now for Orlov. Slows it down. Picked up near the right dot. Combination passing. Svechnikov to Orlov. Svechnikov blasted into the right side boards. He's slow to get to his feet. Orlov now on the left side. Fans are just booing. They want shots. Aho blows it wide from Jarvis. And we'll get a whistle at 15:17. Officially, still no shots on their second power play.
we saw that in the Dallas series too, Tom. I mean, they really like to charge up with that key and being that role play a little vulnerable.
So I'm going to tell you officially for the story. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you too many details because not a lot's happened, but I'm going to be talking a lot of the insight off the ice in this story. This shot gets blown wide again. Jarvis has now gone to the dressing room after that latest hit. That's insult to injury for Carolina. That's their second best player on their team, bar none. He plays in every sort of line. So I don't know how that's going to work in a couple nights from now. Again, that would be Saturday. These are all going to be about 8:10 puck drops with the exception of Sunday, which will be a 3:10 start Eastern. Every other game will be 8:10 in a mix of this conference final. And Seth Jarvis is going to the room. Here's a 3-on-2. Opportunity now for Stahl. He was waiting for it. Does not get to him. Cats clean it up right in front of the net. Here's a long flip for Tkachuk on a 1-on-2. And the line for Orlov and Slavin. Watch this one get iced at 14:28. Carolina got one shot on the power play. And that hit that we saw from Mikkola, that was clean on Jarvis. He got killed and against the right side boards. And then he braced away from hit on his last part of the rush and then gingerly made his way to the room. He said to Rod, he waved his hand, I need to get off the ice and go to the dressing room. That's not a good sign for number 24 because Seth Jarvis is a pretty darn good player. Slavin, here's a 1T. As this one goes to the right side, Stahl trying to pick it up in the right side corner now. Sam Bennett, this will be tied up and amongst some skate blades. Carter Verhaeghe, take a long flip and put it back down the ice. I will say this, in between some of the Sharks games, as far as MIHL for me, a lot of the NHL World Juniors and things like that, this might be the most one-sided game I've ever watched. And we've talked about 6-1s in between Toronto and Florida. 2-on-1 the other way. Cross pass gets deflected off the fourth line for AJ Greer. And Seth Jones throws in the corner. But Carolina are not getting any shots. They're not even getting to the spots that they need to. And they just can't do anything. And if I'm Sergei Bobrovsky, you need one of those My Pillows. He's got a hold from 150 feet. And now Carolina's trying to get in the physical game as we get some pushing and shoving. Mikkola and Jones all get a dance partner. And Walker was having some words. We'll step aside. It's 4-0 Cats. Slavin and Chucky with a high stick.
And it just piles.
Yeah, you can't have an injury to Seth Jarvis.
Yeah.
So, admittedly, as I said, I might be doing the Worlds. That would be like an 8:30 Eastern start. It'd be very early in the morning, so we'll see if I'm even half awake for that one. So, who's on the U.S. side? Let's go to the forwards here if we can. Let's just break this down line by line. This goes line by line. So, your goalies are Jeremy Swayman. That's pretty good. And Joey DeCord is the backup. So, we'll just go line by line. Zach Werenski and Jackson Lacombe. Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Connor Garland. It's Brady Shea and Andrew Peak, with Drew O'Connor, Matty Beniers, and Tage Thompson. Alex Vlasic, Michael Kesselring, with Mikey Isamont, Michael McCarron, and Frank Mazer. And then Z. Bulliam, Cutter Gauthier, Shane Pinto, Will Smith, and Josh Doan as an extra with Ryan Morsofsky as the head coach. Pretty good secondary talent alongside with the United States. I can see what they're doing well. Let me see what I can find for Sweden, because that's going to be their next matchup. So again, Willie Nylander is supposed to join. So their goaltenders are Samuel Ersson and Jacob Markstrom. So could definitely score there, I would say. Rasmus Sandin, Jonas Brodin, William Nylander, William Karlsson, and Lucas Raymond getting some time in the Worlds. Simon Evanson, Rasmus Anderson, Philip Forsberg, Michael Backlund, Elias Lindholm, Marcus Pettersson, Adam Larson, Marcus Johansson, Leo Carlson, Mika Zibanejad, Eric Gustafsson, Emil Heimanen, Isaac Lundstrom, and Alex Wenberg, and Jesper Frodin is the extra for Sweden. So Sweden's got a ton of talent. The United States have a ton of talent. That should be a pretty good matchup, all things considered. A lot of NHL players on both sides.
Yeah. talking about some of the best being all on one team. If they can recreate what the Four Nations did.
Yeah, you're right about that. When we got a chance to cover the Four Nations, I think even that, Ian, I expected that the NHL didn't think it was going to work out that well. Drop now inside for Carolina up a 1T from the left side dot as this one's picked off by Mikkola, who's just been throwing some bone bruising hits out of the left side red line. Again, Mikkola, I believe, was also a member of the St. Louis Blues as this one goes the other way for Evan Rodriguez off the deflected tip, and this goes from Slavin to Martinook, shoved into the corner. Carolina now finally has double-digit shots. It's just 18-10. It's not like Florida has had a ton, but they haven't needed them. Again, they had about the same amount of shots the other day and scored 5. Now they have that same spot and scored 4. Tkachuk is going to play the rest of this third. Freddie Anderson was on the hook for all 9 goals he's faced so far in this series. Bobrovsky really hasn't had to do much. He's only given up 2, and he is about 12 minutes away from a shutout. On the backhand, Bobrovsky with a big save, as this will go the other way down for Shane Gustav. Not iced, as it's 18-11 on the shot board. We'll get a chance to look at this again. So I'm glad I got a chance to look at the lineups. I'm going to close on my double IHF windows. All the forwards will take a change for Rod Brind'Amour's squad and then work right to left. Here's a connected pass. And alongside for Martinook toward the left side red line, finished off. Verhaeghe Schmidt trying to pick it up in the corner. Jackson Blake sets up the 1T, deflected out in front, and Aaron Ekblad just cleans out the mess, takes out the Carolina players with him as it goes to the left side blue line. Here's a battle for it right there neutral. Sent back around the end boards now for Florida. Fake the slapper. Ekblad keeps his head up, looking for an outstretched pass, and they'll just shovel in the corner. This one hits the rafters right at center ice. Got a lot of air underneath that, and it'll blow the play dead right where it is at 11:43. So the Mariners had a 2-0 lead in the second period. The Astros have scored 9 straight, lead 9-4 or 9-2 at Minute Maid.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was talking about Caglione and his power.
Yep.
To this, he hit his first AAA home run today, and it ported in 10 feet.
None of those shots that you've been mentioning to me, Ian, are cheapies. That is straight thunder off the bat. And once he is available and ready to go, when you get a much-needed power bat in that lineup, I think that can change a lot of things because, as you said, they're already really good with fielding and speed.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I mean, the fact that he's like this in his, I don't even, you can't even, he's still in his first year.
Right.
I mean, it took Bobby, for as great of a player as Bobby is, it took him 3 years to get to the bigs.
Right.
Cags may do it in less than 1.
Yeah, because of the severe amount of power and everything else you can bring for that potential is going to bring you in there. Because you're talking about those shots, and I'm not making the comparison. He is a big boy, and his players will come together. Now, Lusterinen really wants to go, and alongside with Jackson Blake, and now Aho with a late shove. You don't see Aho get all that physical. Now, Mikkola throws a punch at Sebastian Aho. If Aho drops the gloves, I think we've gone to lunacy land. Will Carrier now trying to back him up. This is not a good look for Carolina. The barns and the horses and everything else, they're all out the brave right now. It looks like a twister. Paul Maurice is livid on the other side. He's screaming at the referee. He wants some penalties. He doesn't want them taking liberties on the Panthers. And now Carolina is going to get a power play. It looks like Lusterinen's going to get the extra. So in toward the right side, Lusterinen finishes his hit. And Jackson Blake throws a cross check to his face. Obviously, Lustarinen's going to retaliate. And then, as we get a camera shot in between Mikkola and Aho, Mikkola having some words. Aho goes in, throws a elbow to Mikkola. And Brad Marchand, no surprise here, cross-check Shane Gostisbehere off our screen right into the back, no call. So Mark Jankowski will try to win this draw, as this will be flipped back down the ice. We're about halfway through this third. Opportunity for Stankoven off the drop. Carolina going to get things going. They have just one shot. This is their third power play, but just one shot with the man advantage. Stahl splits the D, and he can't hold the D to pick up the puck near the left side red line. He was wide open in front, but the pass was too far ahead. Brent Burns now trying to send this one off the glass. Flip the ice. Closed down by Jack Roslovic. He coughs it up. My goodness. Cats have a partial break. It was Marchand, and he's going to get hit really hard. They're going to try to get it toward the right side boards. Marchand avoids it. He ducks underneath and now tries to pick it up the other way. Marchand, what a move. It creates a 1-on-2. Lundell, cross pass for Marchand. He just missed it. He couldn't get a stick blade on it. It would have been 5-0 as this goes the other way. Here's a long outstretch. Florida narrowly missed that by about 2 feet as it's 9:15 left to go in the third. This game can be over anytime. That's what Carolina's got to be thinking right now. But yeah, they still got to play 2 more of these at least, as this will be dropped for Gostisbehere. Can he score here? No. This one gets blocked by Bennett. Florida still at the 100% of their attention. Picked up now for Gostisbehere. Into the corner. And this will be flipped back down the ice. Jarvis has returned to the bench, according to Sportsnet, as this one will be flipped back down to the left side red line. Back to the point for Gostisbehere. One more pass. Keeps his head up in the high slot. Gostisbehere off the touch. Here's an opportunity for Blake. Flips it back to Shane. From the left side, Jarvis tries the backhand, so he's back to the bench and on the ice now after missing about 10 minutes. Aho loses the puck. 3 power plays for Carolina. 1 shot. As this is sent the other way, Jarvis leaves for Blake. It gets punished on the left side boards. Stolen by Schmidt. Verhaeghe steps up, gets the steal. Slavin tried to cut it off in front. Bobrovsky had it underneath his left pads. He couldn't find it. Florida cleans it up in their own end. Verhaeghe off the glass. This one picked off by Jacob. Flip back down for Sergei. Not much for him to do in this game as he works his way back into the goal crease. Somebody blows a tire. That was Verhaeghe. And off the drop. Try to find Martinook, and it's right in the glove hand as we get some more pushing and shoving. Carolina was really physical here, but it's not going to matter. Nate Schmidt closes it off. Go ahead, Ian. Now the Thunder have pulled away from the Timberwolves, so it looks like none of these games are destined to be close today. Sometimes you get nights like these. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in takeover mode, 28.
Brand new suitcases and the nearest loved ones. It's the Expedia Family Getaway Sale. Members save 25% or more on selected hotels.
I can't tell you there was ever a moment during a broadcast. I know it's only been about 3.5 years for me off and on between everything else or whatnot since I've been doing this, but I can't imagine a team that has 3 power play opportunities and only gets 1 shot. That's completely unacceptable. And when you go to Rod Brind'Amour at the end of the day, because I'm going to keep on Sportsnet or TNT between Paul Bissonnette and all that, because I'll flip back over for their post game because it's infinitely better. If I hear any quotes from Rod Brind'Amour saying that we were close, from all the conversations that we had tonight, I want him fired after the series. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
You do not say that after this game, and I better not hear that.
Yeah, no. What you have to say, you know what? I will accept one answer, and one answer only. We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ian. That's all I want to hear. You got to be honest about it. This has 2 games essentially that have not been close whatsoever. I don't care what the numbers say as far as game 1 where Carolina dominated all that. You didn't dominate on the scoreboard. For Edmonton, you could at least make the argument, and I'm not saying it's the right one or the wrong one, that if a stretch of 5 or 6 minutes of stupid and careless penalties took the game away from them, but you can't make any of those arguments here for Carolina.
No. And I mean, John, I think Carolina at some point needs to understand that actually, if I keep saying what I'm going to say, I'm just going to be repeating points. We've gone over basically everything we can. But first and foremost, actually, I want to hear 2 things from Rob Brind'Amour.
Go ahead.
First one, we have a lot of work to do. The second one is what I'm hoping he'll say is, I need to make changes.
I wonder if we will actually hear him say that second part. I think that would be the most trumpet-sounding brass bonanza that we could ever get if that does happen. And by the way, go ahead. I'm gonna. Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. Let me just interject for one moment as we go back into this. I see another penalty against Carolina. Now, a long lift and from Brent Burns. Burns closes it off and he slashes his own stick in an attempt to slash a stick out of hand of Marchand. And that is going to be a penalty against the Canes as Brent Burns goes to the box. 3 penalties against Carolina. So you can't give me one specific that I would go ahead and say that they've done well. So here's another opportunity. This one is knocked away. Picked up now for Barkov, left side red line. And see if Florida can score again in their second opportunity. Again, you have 3 the other way for Carolina. Now 2 power plays for Florida. As this goes to the right side, intentionally off the end boards. Tkachuk tried to send it on front for Erod. Picked up for Barkov from the left side red line. Here's Evan Rodriguez back to the point. Seth Jones is out there. He's pinching to the right side. Ekblad lets it go. What a screen out in front for Barkov. Gets the tip. It is 5-0.
If it was an animal, I would make a cooked joke. I would make a food joke. What pun am I supposed to make regarding this?
Well, I guess the hurricane warning or the tornado warning was no more than that. No damaging. It was just a gentle breeze today. And Florida Panthers strolled into Carolina, and they just decapitated this team. Panthers were hungry, I guess. Ian, again, I don't want to go too much with the puns, but I'm asking you this question now, and I have to. It's 5-0 because we just watched a couple of nights ago 2 games, games 5, game 7, 6-1, when Florida just killed Toronto. The most embarrassing losses, I believe, in their franchise history. And now I ask you this, with a 5-0, this might be one of the most embarrassing performances I've ever seen from Carolina.
I got nothing. I mean, if Florida scores another one, actually, So they have a little under 5 minutes.
Yes. Yep. It just hit that mark.
Wow.
I want to say there's one constant in all of this, and you know exactly where I'm going. It is Florida. And we talk about Florida, Paul Maurice. We talk about the laughingstock that they used to be. We talked about them now trying to go for 2 cups in 3 years. Same thing that the Lightning did. Is Florida just this good? I mean, we talk about Carolina and some other things that need to change. Granted, we don't have all the answers, but Florida might just be this good.
Yeah, it is looking that way.
Because I'm gonna be interesting, admittedly, whether it is Edmonton or Dallas. And Edmonton really shot themselves in the foot the other day. If Dallas plays against this team, I like Jake Ottinger. He is by far and away to me better than Freddie Anderson. I no disrespect to Alec. I know he had a little bit, not a spat, but as far as that he wanted to give him credit, and as he should have, because Freddie was good in the first 2 rounds. But at least I would say Dallas would be able to push the puck the other way up the ice. I don't think that they would get closed off this hard like Florida has done against them. But also, I think I'm going to make a comparison I probably wasn't ready to make. I don't know if the Metro teams can hang against the Atlantic. That could be completely point blank and wrong, but I just get that feeling.
I don't know, man. I really don't know if there is a team that can beat Florida. I was talking about during one of the earlier rounds that Dallas had the most complete team in the West.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes, they do. But Florida across the board just has, on every line they have and every defensive pairing, there is always a guy that you look at and you say, he scares me.
True. 100% granted.
So, if in fact,
I'm gonna let you jump into that in 1 second. Nate Schmidt, yeah. Dmitry Kulikov is their 3rd line, by the way.
Another misfit.
I think that speaks exactly to your point, because you got Forsling, Ekblad, line 1. I mean, that's sick. You bring in Seth Jones off that partial buyout from the Tkachuk injury at 4 Nations with Mikkola, and then Schmidt and Kulikov on your 3rd line. I don't know any other team that would have those guys in the 3rd line. They have so much depth, to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a absolute ass kicking. That's the only other way for me to say it. I'm not going to have to sugarcoat it here. Don't try to swear too much on the own space to keep it professional. But that's what we saw in these last games, 5 and 7 against Toronto, and now in Game 2. I mean, Game 1 was essentially that way as far as the score line. I think if you lose by 3, you're losing by a lot, especially in hockey, because you get to 4 and 5, you're not competitive at that point, just to me. And when I see Carolina get completely shut down in all facets, no shooting lanes, having to force, get shots that get blocked out in front of the net. I mean, Bobrovsky in this game has literally nothing to do. And oh, by the way, Ian, you mentioned this a ton of times. Bobrovsky is one of the most calming influences, one of the top-tier playoff goaltenders that can step up and steal games when he needs to. But he also, essentially in this game, gets a day off.
Yeah, I mean, he's sitting back there. I don't know if he's married, but if he is, he's been setting dinner. He's been setting up dinner plans and vacation spots after the season with his missus in the net.
Yes, 100%. And that's the thing when we talked about. I'm glad we had those conversations in the first period. At one side, Brind'Amour and what was going to happen and what wasn't. Because when you look at it, in 2023, And out of 2025, yes, it was a sweep, but all those games were one goal, and they were excruciating. Again, 7 overtimes combined in between the quadruple, double, and single. But they're much closer. Now this team has a -8 differential instead of a -4. This is within 2 games. This tells you that they're not closer now from what we see in the next two. And I don't know. I know Toronto was able to do it in one game when they won 2-0 game 6. I didn't think that was going to ever happen. I don't think Carolina wins more than one game in this series if they even win one after what we saw today. This will be off the long flip, and at least for Carolina, mercifully, it'll be 90 seconds until this one is done. This will be flipped back in amongst the inboards. We'll see if Carolina can get anything. The shot board is 20-16, so again, one of the times, as we told you in this series, where you cannot look at the stat outlines and think that it looks close, because it has not been. Shot attempts are tied at 50. It's picked up now for Martin. Here's a push the other way for Stahl. He gets tied up by Schmidt, and this will be hand grenaded outside the zone. Tkachuk will watch this one go in the corner. The refs could have iced this, but they elected not to. We'll press on, and thankfully for everybody. There is, I would say, about 60% of the building has left as this is sent across the inboards. Bobrovsky's going to stop it. They try to throw it in the middle of the slot. This Carolina as he slows down by Blake. Flip back in across the half boards. Be chopped down out of the air. It's now Florida that gets a chance to play with it. Orlov, one more pass up the gut. You try to lead this aside for Kotniemi. Toward the right side post. Picked up now for the Cats. Down to 15 seconds. All they're waiting for is to get their shutout because this game has been done since the second goal scored in the first period. Carolina doesn't advance. That's your final with the seconds ticking down. 5-0 Cats, an absolute beatdown in game 2. They take both on the road. Again, this series 2 years ago was so much closer. This looks like a Major League Baseball team versus a Double-A team. Bobrovsky, 17 out of 17 in the shutout. He didn't have to do anything tonight. And some plastic rats now being thrown on the ice. I'll say it again. I'm going to get set to sign off here alongside Ian, but we watched those 6-1s, and as bad as that looked, and now for Carolina to feel this way, with their structure, their defense, everything else that they can show you, you just don't know. I think the Cats might be getting a little bit of a long rest as we get closer and closer to these Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah. I mean, John, you pretty much this entire broadcast. I mean, what exactly? It's funny. We spent time talking about the teams, but I mean the game. I mean, think about it like this.
Yeah.
How can we really commentate on a game when it's like this?
There's a reason why you can't, Ian, because on one side of the ice, they didn't show you anything to believe in all night. And this might be the worst loss. I'm going to flip this on the TNT side because I want to get their thoughts before I write the story and get all that done. And I'll say goodbye to you and all that, Ian. I appreciate it. But this is probably the worst loss in the Rod Brind'Amour era, considering how important this game is. I think this is hands down the worst loss now.
Yeah, and John, we've been making pretty direct statements, so I'll make another one.
Sure.
If this does not convince Rod Brind'Amour that what he's been doing hasn't been working and that he needs to figure out some kind of if he has not changed anything about the lineups or the goalie or the schemes that he's running for these playoffs, this for Game 3, my statements before and your statements before become even more crystal clear. He needs to go. Because you don't... Look, listen, the Leafs got blown out 6-1 on their home ice twice.
Yes.
But I will say, after Game 5, Verhaeghe did something. Because they shut out
Yes.
the Panthers on their home ice. I'm seeing. What I mean is the Panthers' home ice. So something happened, obviously. And even in Game 7, you saw him yelling at his players.
Yes. I don't ever see that from Rod Brind'Amour, fair or unfair.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't mind that he's the calming presence. But there is a time when he needs to be BF5 in the room.
I agree with you. I like that. This is one of those times, Ian, because if not now, when? And as you said, we talked about it in the right ways, and I promise I'll sign off in a minute, but we talked about it in the right ways as far as this team being a Final Four team, being a really good organization, maybe considering that as Florida being a generational type team, considering all the struggles that they've had, but they've gotten to the point now. Paul Maurice been their guy. Is this the ceiling for Carolina? You're absolutely right. If they don't make adjustments, if they don't look infinitely more competitive on the road than they did at home, which they normally play really well at home and they are awful on the road, that's usually how Carolina is, then yeah, you're right. Because as tough as it is to fire a coach that's consistently in the Final Four, you also have to credit this, as you mentioned, alongside the roster construction. If you're not going to make changes and you're not going to go out and get some talent, you can't hold on to guys like Mikko Rantanen or Jay Getzel when obviously they're trying to make moves over the last couple of years because they know they need goal scoring, they know they need something, then it might not work out. And that would be a shame because, again, it's a team that, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it seems close because they're in the Final Four, but when we see games like this, it's really not.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe this is just what Florida is, you know. Maybe
They could be.
Maybe they're just a buzzsaw that's going to run through everybody. I will say this. While it does not excuse how badly the other teams lose, if they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and they rout their opponent there, pretty much you just have to chalk it up to the fact that Florida was unstoppable.
That's where I'll completely agree with you. I think because at least for Carolina, you get to wait until you make those moves until the end of the year. Yeah, if they rock the Stars or the Oilers and they knock them out in 4 games, they almost did that last year until they didn't when the Oilers forced 7. It was 3-0, and I was thinking the Oilers weren't going to win a game. It was just like all of us. But yeah, you're right. If it does come that way, I could give Rod Brind'Amour a pass. That's probably what he's hoping for at this point.
Yeah. And there's also the fact that there is how do we put this? When you have, because like you said, they routed the Lightning like this too.
Yes, they did, and the Lightning were excellent. It was a good team, Ian.
So they rout the Lightning, they rout the Leafs, and they're currently routing the Hurricanes. If they rout the Stars and the Oilers, again, doesn't excuse the teams, but actually, Trey put it nicely in the video. If it's If it's one time day, it happens to everyone. If it's a couple, just bad luck. If it happens 3 or more times, then it's just simply what we call a trend.
Yeah. And it might happen to the Canes almost 3 times. Again, it's a rematch from a couple of years ago, and they're running roughshod throughout. And look, I know some fans will say the Leafs took it to 7, and they did have a 2-0 lead, but they also, again, as Ian mentioned, 2 of those losses were 6-1, and they were both on home ice. So I don't think the Leafs were all that close either. And oh, by the way, you could say Game 7, you could say Round 3, and yes, Carolina made it to Round 3 both times against Florida, but you know what happened? They got swept. They might get swept again. They still have 1 less win than the Maple Leafs did, 8. And the last I checked, you need 16 to lift the Stanley Cup. That probably means you're not close.
No. And if you do think you're close, then here's what it falls. Here's what it falls to. What this also tells is that Rod Brind'Amour can only go so far with the roster he has. And whether or not he wants it or not, they need him. And I mean a him. You know what type of player I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And really with Carolina, I think you suggested this. I think they forego big game hunting this season or this off season,
Right.
and go for depth and wait till next free agent class, because Mitch Marner, no. I mean, unless unfortunately I don't know the name of the GM for the Canes.
Yeah, it was Don Lundell, but I don't know if it is now. I don't think so.
I don't think it is, but unless you get John Tavares for a sweetheart deal, which I doubt. If he's not returning to Toronto, he's going to ask for pretty hefty money. And like you said, Provorov, I mean, sure, look, they're going to be losing a couple of defensemen, but from what I saw from Provorov, it's not going to help solve your issues on the offensive front.
No, you're not moving the needle in that way. And as you said, even with Marner, they're not one player away.
No. And what they would have to do is, I mean, it's not just free agency. They'd have to make moves. They'd have to trade. And that's giving on draft capital, which I'm sure they would do. But who would you go for? Because here's the thing. Any team that is going to be wanting draft capital, I mean, let's look at the teams, right, that would even think about trading some of their talent, about who would think about trading talent for draft picks and prospects. The New York Islanders maybe, but they have the number 1 overall pick, and I don't know who they have that would be worth a heavy price to pay, because Brock Nelson's gone, and I don't know, and they're still on a bridge deal with Ben Barzal. They're not getting rid of him, and that'd be the only person that I would want from that squad right now.
Yeah.
San Jose is a lot of unproven rookies that they are not going to even. They're not even going to entertain the notion of that because they're building that core. Same thing with actually, I'm going to be honest. Instead of Rantanen, looking back on it, it might have been a good idea to talk to negotiate with Chicago a little more for what was left of Ryan Donato.
Yeah, he was a guy that was making absolutely nothing and putting up a bunch of numbers and fitting in with the system. So you make some good points there. Carolina has, in all intents and purposes, we talk about it from the front and back. They're a good organization. This result does not change that, but this result also tells you, as Ian mentioned, there is a lot of work to do. And when I get back again on probably the weekend, and Ian, let me ask you this, and I'll just say this honestly as I close. If you do see Alec, send him my condolences as well. I'm sure I'll message him. I know he's having a rough night. I'll just let him know that I'm thinking of him because that was brutal.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I'll message him, but probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, I appreciate you as always, my friend. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon, and hopefully we get some better broadcasts in front of us because honestly, if I go to the NHL side, I'll say it officially, this is probably the last look I'm going to have at this series. I might just be sticking with Dallas and Edmonton at this point because that was yikes.
Yeah, that was yikes. All right, my man. It was good.
Yeah.
Good chatting with you.
We'll see it.
Game by game by playing this style of hockey. And the big